Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. American Comics. The Strongest Master, Killing Through the Multi-Universe. Chapter 1. The United States, New York, Hell's Kitchen. In a relatively remote alley, there is a store decorated in Chinese classical style. Sus Poisonous Pet Shop. That's the name of this store. At the moment, two beautiful girls were visiting the store. One has a slender figure, a delicate face, and short golden hair. The other one has black hair, and his figure and appearance are not inferior to the former. It's so late, shouldn't you two little girls be here? If it were elsewhere, Su Chen would naturally not say much. But this is Hell's Kitchen. Marvel's Hell's Kitchen is as dangerous as its name suggests. This is hell. I'm afraid the crime rate at night in the world combined is not as high as here. The two girls are still beautiful girls in their youth. They are really not afraid of being first and then again. Hearing Su Chen's words, a smile appeared on the fair face of the beautiful blonde girl. Boss, I'm not stupid. I know how dangerous it is here. If my dad hadn't been patrolling here today, I wouldn't have come. That's right, boss, don't worry about it blindly. We are not reckless people. I also heard about your store from others. I didn't expect that there are so many beautiful poisonous pets here. The black-haired girl was obviously more anxious, so she pulled the blonde girl towards the store. Wow, this little snake is so cute. It comes in 7 colors. This little squirrel is not bad either. Its tail is so big. My God, the color of this scorpion is so beautiful. These little things are so beautiful. Jessica, you really didn't lie to me. Then definitely, Gwen, how about we each buy one today? Okay, quote. At the moment, the two beautiful girls were like curious babies, chattering in Su Chen's shop. Su Chen stood there slightly embarrassed. But Su Chen's eyes couldn't help but light up when she heard the names they called each other. Gwen, Jessica. From what the girl with short blonde hair said, his father was patrolling here today, and he seemed to be a police officer. If you put it this way, it's really possible that she is Spider-Man's unlucky girlfriend. Maybe she'll be Spider-Woman in a black and white pink battle suit. It can also be called Ghost Spider-Man. No way, what the hell are you encountering two Marvel heroines at the beginning? Moreover, why is this timeline a bit messy? Is Gwen already that old at this time? Su Chen was a little confused for a moment, and his thoughts slowly drifted away. He accidentally entered this world 3 months ago, and at that time he awakened the gold finger called the GU God system. It doesn't matter to him, he was an orphan before time travel, and time travel is just a change of environment. What I didn't expect was that I would travel to the crisis-ridden Marvel world. This made Su Chen greet the 18th generation of the system several times. But I can't go back even after being scolded, so I can only find a way to survive here. The good news is that Goldfinger helped him arrange an identity as a Shaguo orphan who grew up in an orphanage, and his figure and appearance have also been transformed to become even better. He avoided being taken away as a gangster by Verbal or other investigative agencies in the United States. Since you are a time traveler, you cannot embarrass the time traveler. What's more, after traveling to such a dangerous world, he didn't want to put his life in the hands of those unreliable heroes. The time is now 2008, and Tony has not yet become Iron Man. But 2 days ago, Stark Industries released a new weapon, the Jericho missile. In other words, a trip to the Middle East is coming soon. At that time, Tony will be kidnapped by terrorists. After seeing Stark's industrial weapons used for evil, he will realize his enlightenment and become Elron Man completely. Then, the Marvel story begins completely, which means that countless crises are gradually coming. Even if they survive the invasion of the Chidori army, who can guarantee whether the half destroyed by the purple sweet potato spirit will have them? Even if the superheroes win in the end, half of them will be resurrected. What about other dangers? There are so many super criminals in this world, and there are so many people with super abilities. Ordinary people living in such a world have to be prepared to receive lunchboxes at all times. At this time, the system issued a task to him. This task made Su Chen feel that the system must be taking revenge on him for scolding its ancestors. The task of the system is to let him open a poisonous pet shop in Hell's Kitchen, with a turnover of 100,000 yuan in 3 months. It wouldn't matter if the store was somewhere else, but this was Hell's Kitchen. Is it possible that he wants to sell it to those gangsters? It's good if they don't hold a gun to your head to collect protection money. Can you still spend money to buy things? So much so that in the past 3 months, he had been frantically promoting the poisonous pets in his store, and he was still nearly half short of 100,000 yuan. But the March deadline is tomorrow. Fortunately, there is always a way out. It seems that there are 2 complaints in front of me. Well, the customers don't understand the price of poisonous pets. The blonde girl is most likely Gwen Stacy, a famous Marvel character. Unexpectedly, Su Chen couldn't help but raise the corners of her mouth. Who allowed her to catch up? Soon, the 2 women selected their favorite poisonous pets. The one with long black hair picked a colorful scorpion, while the one with short blonde hair picked a colorful spider. Boss, we want these 2, how much is the total? Seeing that Gwen actually chose spider, Su Chen was a little surprised. It couldn't be such a coincidence. However, these poisonous pets of his are all rewarded by the system. They should be just ordinary poisonous pets. There is no ability that one bite can give Spider-Man. So, Su Chen chuckled and said, 2 ladies, I see that this is your first time visiting our store, so I will give you a preferential price. This desert scorpion comes from the Black Sahara Desert and is very difficult to catch, so the original price is 10,000 yuan, but we only charge you 8,000 yuan. This spider also comes from the coast of the Hawaiian Islands. It is also very inconvenient to catch, so I will charge you 10,000 yuan. Quote. These poisonous pets are all rewarded by the system. The system will reward 1 or 2 rewards every week or so naturally these words are all made up. There are indeed some poisonous pets that are expensive, but there are very few that sell them for astronomical prices like Su Chen. Sure enough, after hearing Su Chen's quotation, the black-haired man screamed, "What? You want so much of these 2 little things, why don't you go and rob them?" It can be seen that the black-haired girl has a more straightforward temper. She is not willing to give in when something is unfair. Seeing the other party's reaction, Su Chen's heart skipped a beat. When they were thinking about how to convince the 2 of them, the black-haired girl was pulled behind her by the blonde short-haired girl. Forget it, Jessica. I think the price the boss wants is normal. The girl with short blonde hair looks like the girl next door, with a pure face. Su Chen didn't expect that the other party would be so easy to deceive, so he immediately showed off the face of a profiteer, constantly explaining that the 2 poisonous pets were definitely worth the money. However, the girl with long black hair was obviously more anxious. Gwen, this is obviously a black shop. He made up the Hawaiian beaches and the Sahara Desert. I didn't expect that this guy is so handsome and has such a dark heart. He regards us as fat sheep. Let's go. Hey, what are you doing? Quote. This time, the girl with short blonde hair did not wait for the other party to finish speaking, and directly handed a card to Su Chen. Boss, can I swipe my card? Definitely. Su Chen looked at the beautiful girl with short blonde hair in surprise, but she quickly swiped the card and handed the invoice to Gwen. Is this girl so easy to deceive now? The system task was completed just like this. Thank you for your patronage and welcome your next visit. Su Chen handed the other party a small cage containing 2 poisonous pets, and then issued an eviction order. This left the black-haired girl covered in the whole process, looking at her good friend in disbelief. Several times he wanted to say something, but was stopped by the blonde girl. However, what no one noticed was that a hint of cunning flashed through the beautiful big eyes of the girl with short blonde hair. Su Chen is not paying attention to this either. Because, after the deal was concluded, a clear voice sounded in his mind. Ding, congratulations to the host, you have completed the 50,000 turnover task, and the reward has been distributed. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the GU Master Cultivation Method, Iron Skin GU, Ox GU, and Moonlight GU. The way of the GU Master. This is something I didn't expect. It's not like other time travelers, awakening super ability. Su Chen was also a little surprised. This system is actually a one-way street. This actually reminded him of the 404 novel he had read in his previous life, about the man known as the Great Love God. His outlook on life is actually dark and self-serving. That is the real villain. Is it possible that I want to take such a path? I don't know what the upgrade mode provided by the system is, but it seems that it will be developed slowly. Then, Su Chen looked at the system introduction again. Iron Skin GU. Defend against GU insects, metallize the whole body, and can defend against large-caliber sniper rifles. Yi Niu GU. A body-building voodoo insect. After use, it will gain up to the power of 1 cow. When converted into current units, it is equivalent to 10 tons. After using it for a period of time, the power will be completely converted into itself. Moonlight GU. Attacks GU-like insects. After use, it will emit an energy light blade, like a crescent moon, which can cut through steel. Seeing the introduction, Su Chen couldn't help but widen his eyes. The GU worms that were initially rewarded at this time were so powerful, and they would definitely become stronger in the future. As his thoughts fell, 3 small insects of different shapes appeared in front of him. A body covered in darkness, like a beetle, is the Iron Skin GU. The other one looks like a small fly but has 2 small horns on its head. This is a bullbug. The last one is a long white insect that emits white light, curled up like a crescent moon. This is the Moonlight GU. After seeing the 3 GU worms, Su Chen was pleasantly surprised. It turned out that this was what GU worms looked like. But how do I put it away? At this time, the extremely cold system actually gave an answer. Run the GU Master cultivation method, and upgrade your cultivation to the primary level of GU Master. You can also open acupoints to store GU worms. So this is all. Then, based on the extra information in his mind, Su Chen tried to operate the technique. Originally, Su Chen thought that it would be impossible to cultivate energy in just a few days. Unexpectedly, he could sense energy by simply operating it for a week. Sure enough, the products produced by the system must be high quality. It is estimated that as long as an individual practices this technique, he can cultivate energy. However, this GU master must cooperate with GU worms to practice. Without GU worms, it would be 100 refinements. About an hour later, after the meridians in Su Chen's body had been expanded, he finally found a whirlpool in the depths that glowed faintly. Su Chen knew that this was the location of the acupoint. Then, a few strands of energy that had been cultivated through operation began to impact towards the vortex. The first time, the whirlpool had no response, the second time, and the third time it still had no effect. But Su Chen was not anxious. He knew very clearly that being anxious at this time would only lead to failure. In this way, Su Chen's operating energy impacted the vortex about 100 times and finally loosened. Seeing such a scene, Su Chen was overjoyed and hurriedly rushed over again. Boom! About 1,000 times, the vortex was finally blasted away completely. A small space inside was opened. Su Chen also felt that her physical fitness had improved several times. He's just an elementary level GU master, that's how powerful he is. Even if he doesn't use GU worms now, he can still be 50-50 equal to Captain America. However, he wants more than this power. So, looking at the 3 GU insects floating in the air, Su Chen controlled the energy in his body to move towards a cow GU package. After Yi Niugu felt the external energy pulling him, he immediately struggled. Soon, Su Chen pulled a cow voodoo into the orifice of the body. By looking inside, Su Chen found that it was already honest. Without rushing to try the improvement brought by one bull's voodoo, Su Chen began to put away the second voodoo. Iron Skin GU was also quickly taken into the aperture and lay there honestly. At the moment, there is a cow voodoo and an Iron Skin voodoo in the orifice, each occupying one side and not infringing on each other. Su Chen's power is only at the beginning of the GU master level now. As he slowly cultivates, he will open other acupoints, so he won't have to worry about the GU insects not being able to coexist peacefully in the acupoints. Looking at the milky white crescent bug floating in front of him, Su Chen did not hesitate and wrapped it with energy again. At this moment, a sudden change occurred. The Moonlight GU, which was originally thought to be as easy to conquer as the first 2, seemed to be directly activated by an external force. He actually started to struggle violently, and his body shone brightly. Su Chen's energy surrounding him suddenly shattered. I go. Moonlight GU is quite temperamental this month. Su Chen thought to himself, and quickly wrapped most of the power he had just cultivated in the Moonlight GU, which was even brighter and more dazzling. Then, Su Chen felt that the Moonlight Gu was struggling even more fiercely. I still can't conquer you, little thing. Su Chen struggled with the Moonlight Gu several times and almost lost her energy, which also aroused her fierce temper. Whoosh! Suddenly, a file-sized moon blade flew past Su Chen's neck, and Su Chen even felt as if the air had been cut open. Immediately afterwards, a solid wood table behind was split into two halves. And it continued unabated, cutting a hole more than 10 centimeters deep in the wall behind it, and then the moon blade dissipated. Let me go, are you going to murder? If the moon blade were any closer to the neck, Su Chen would really be in trouble. Su Chen no longer held back and released all his energy, wrapping the Moonlight Gu. Let's see who of us consumes who first. Su Chen was also angry. If I can't conquer you, how can I still survive in the Marvel world? About 5 minutes later, when Su Chen felt that his energy was about to be exhausted, Moonlight Gu finally slowly stopped struggling. Seeing this, Su Chen quickly seized the opportunity and withdrew the Moonlight Gu into his body. The Moonlight Gu that entered the orifice began to jump up and down constantly, and squeeze the two Gu that originally occupied one side into the corner. Su Chen was not anxious, and mobilized the last bit of energy in his body to suppress Yu Mang Gu. At this time, Yu Mang Gu's remaining strength was completely exhausted, and he lay quietly in his acupoint. However, it still occupied most of the central position, and the Bull Gu and Iron Skin Gu were driven to the outermost areas by him. This guy is really a thorn in the side. Feeling that the energy in her body was completely exhausted, Su Chen also breathed a sigh of relief. Although this Gu is rewarded by the system, it is not so easy to conquer. Therefore, Su Chen started the Gu Master's cultivation method and began to restore the energy in his body. Although the system is sometimes deceiving, the rewards are indeed good. The Gu Master's training method seemed to be tailor-made for him. In less than 10 minutes, most of the Gu Master's primary energy had been restored. At this speed, he would be able to break through to the intermediate level of Gu Master in just a few days. By then, we should be able to crush super soldiers like Captain America. What are you doing? I tell you, my father is a police officer and will be patrolling here today. Yes, you bad guys, aren't you afraid of going to jail? Two ladies, we really don't like the environment in prison, but Hell's Kitchen is scarier than prison. That's right, so what if your father is a police officer? Even the King of Heaven and I have no use here. While Su Chen was practicing vigorously, several quarrels suddenly came to his ears. The voices of the two girls in front of him were somewhat familiar to him. They were the two girls who bought poisonous pets before. From the sound, they must have been stalked by gangsters. Thinking of this, Su Chen stopped practicing. No matter what, this is his own territory. If he dares to come here to cause trouble, he doesn't take him seriously. In the past, he might have just closed the door, but now he just gained strength and his hands were itchy. When he walked out of the door, he saw the two girls being pressed closer and closer. After seeing that 2 black and 1 white men were persecuting the 2 women, Su Chen yelled, "Hey, you dare to bully a good housewife in broad daylight? Ah, a good girl from a good house, you are so bold." Su Chen's shout made everyone present couldn't help but look over. After seeing Su Chen, the 2 girls hurriedly ran behind Su Chen as if grasping a life-saving straw. "Handsome guy, save us, these bad guys are going to bully us both." The black-haired girl grabbed Su Chen's clothes in fear. Su Chen looked at the blonde girl, who also nodded in panic. "We were waiting for my dad just now. He went to patrol another street, and we met them following us. The 3 of them finally surrounded Jessica and me and came to you." Now, Su Chen roughly understood what was happening. The reason why these 2 girls dared to come to Hell's Kitchen was because the police officer father of the blonde girl Gwen Stacy happened to be patrolling here. As a result, when they finished buying poisonous pets and wanted to find the police officer's father, they found that the police officer had gone to patrol another street. Then when they wanted to go look for them, they found someone following them. Finally, they were intercepted by 3 people, so they had to come to their own side. Su Chen had to sigh, this police officer's father has such a big heart. Not only did he dare to bring his daughter to Hell's Kitchen, he also dared to go to work unscrupulously. Are you really not afraid that your daughter will be in danger? Hey, yellow-skinned monkey, I advise you not to meddle in other people's business, otherwise you and your store will be blown up tomorrow. Seeing Su Chen protecting the two girls, the fair-skinned gangster among them shouted angrily with a threatening look on his face. The other two dark-skinned mud brothers also groped around on their bodies, one took out a butterfly knife, and the other took out a swing stick. The white man also took out a dark object, which was a pistol. The three of them looked at Su Chen with disdain, obviously not taking him as a Chinese in their eyes. Su Chen didn't seem to notice the movements of the two Ni brothers, but his eyes turned from casual to cold. Seeing that Su Chen didn't react, the fair-skinned man thought that Su Chen was scared and burst into laughter. Ha ha ha, you fool, you should have a bed in your shop. I just want to use your shop to satisfy you. Once I feel comfortable, I'll take care of your shop. At the moment, the three gangsters seemed to have thought of the wonderful scene next. His eyes glanced up and down at the two Gwen girls. Gwen and Jessica were so frightened that they kept trembling. Looking at the silent Su Chen in front, they thought the other party was hesitating. Subconsciously, she thought of the scene when the lion opened his mouth and sold these two poisonous pets to them. No way, this man is so greedy and his character must not be very good. Is he really going to collude with these bad guys? Boss, don't listen to them. These bad guys will definitely take revenge on you soon. My father will come and arrest them soon. Please. At the moment, Gwen was extremely anxious. He was really afraid that the young man would not dare to resist and push them into the fire pit. Yes, boss, no, little brother, handsome guy, I admit that I said a bit too much when I just bought something. If you help us, I am willing to give you all my money. Please save us. Quote. Jessica also hurriedly pleaded. After all, they are still ordinary girls, and Ghost Spider-Man and Treasure Girl have not yet appeared. In response, Su Chen said coldly, "Shut up." This made Gwen and Jessica almost faint. It's over, it's really over now. Obviously, they felt that Su Chen was going to hand them over. This made the three gangsters opposite laugh even louder. Ha ha ha, okay, I guess you know the truth. As the white-skinned man spoke, he signaled his two men to attack the two girls behind Su Chen. The two of them didn't waste any time, holding the weapons in their hands and grabbing Gwen openly with a grin. However, just when the two of them approached Su Chen, they suddenly felt a huge force hitting their chests. Boom, boom. Before the two of them could see what was happening, their bodies suddenly flew out and smashed against the wall in the distance. Looking up, the two bodies were already embedded in the wall. Their heads drooped, and their chests completely collapsed. Blood trickled down the walls. If nothing else, it's already cold. What did you do? The fair-skinned man who originally showed a lewd smile did not react to this sudden scene at first. Su Chen didn't react until he saw the miserable state of his two companions and the two fists stretched forward. The scene just now was actually done by this weak-looking Chinese man. At the moment, a chill came from the bottom of my heart. Unexpectedly, I actually kicked the iron plate. Being able to send two people flying into a wall 10 meters away with one punch shows just how strong this person is. However, when I saw the pistol in my hand, I immediately felt a sense of security. Then, he started shouting. You yellow-skinned monkey, do you know who I am? I am a member of the Bear Mafia. My father is Anatoly and my uncle is the boss Vladimir. Aren't you afraid that your whole family will be killed? Su Chen looked at his palm. He only slightly mobilized the power of a bull's GU to cause such an attack. The power of GU is too terrifying. Gwen and Jessica also reacted, widening their eyes and covering their mouths. Definitely, more of a relief. It turns out that this boss is no ordinary person. They were finally out of danger. It's just that this young man's strength is too exaggerated. Let me go, boss, are you doing Chinese Kung Fu? Jessica was more nervous and completely forgot that she was about to fall into the tiger's mouth just now. Su Chen did not deny it and replied, you can understand it that way. After all, The Way of the GU Master is also a novel from the East. It is not an exaggeration to say that it is a product of China. After roughly knowing his own level, Su Chen looked at the fair-skinned man who was spitting shit, and the corners of his mouth could not help but raise a dangerous arc. Seeing Su Chen approaching with an indifferent expression, the white-skinned man couldn't help but back away, his finger close to the trigger. Don't come here. Seeing that his background did not scare Su Chen, the white-skinned man pressed the trigger with a ferocious expression. Bang bang. Accompanied by the screams of Gwen and Jessica, gunshots rang out in this remote alley. Ding ding ding. However, the bullet that hit Su Chen's body only broke his clothes, but was ejected as if it hit metal. The white-skinned man couldn't help but be even more frightened when he saw this scene. Is this a human or a ghost? Until all the bullets were fired, he was still pressing the trigger frantically, as if this could stop the approaching Su Chen. However, before he could react, the pistol was held by Su Chen. Then in his horrified eyes, the pistol was crushed. Phew. Before he could finish speaking, his tongue was violently pulled out by Su Chen. Along with a ray of crescent light, the tongue was cut off. In an instant, the whine of a pig being killed was heard. Your mouth smells worse than a garbage dump. Besides, I hate people threatening me the most, even if I don't have a family. Looking at the white-skinned man rolling on the ground, Su Chen threw half of his tongue out with an indifferent expression. Ignoring the two women, Gwen and retching, they raised their feet and stepped on the white-skinned man's head. Stop. Just when Su Chen's feet had just landed, a scolding came from the distance. However, it's too late. The white-skinned man's head was crushed like a watermelon by Su Chen. Looking at the people again, there were more than a dozen police officers in police uniforms. One of them looks somewhat similar to the blonde Gwen. It is George Stacy. I saw the red and white material on the ground, and the two knee brothers on the wall who seemed to have lost all their bones. The three middle-aged police officers were all dumbfounded. As police officers, they are naturally well informed and have seen many cruel killing techniques. However, compared with the scene in front of me, it was still too different. The middle-aged police officer hurriedly took out the pistol from his waist and pointed it at Su Chen with a vigilant expression. Don't be emotional, let my daughter go first. The middle-aged police officer looked at Su Chen's pale-faced daughter, extremely nervous. The other two younger police officers also pointed their pistols at Su Chen with their faces full of vigilance. Dad, don't be afraid. This gentleman is a good man. If he hadn't taken action just now, I might have been killed by these three women. Gwen also came to her senses at this time, enduring the physical discomfort. He hurriedly ran to the middle-aged police officer, grabbed his pistol, put it down, and explained anxiously. This made Su Chen, who Yun Danfengqing took back the GU worm, couldn't help but raise her eyebrows slightly. The United States is indeed an open country, and the girl said this word without any psychological burden. This man is probably Gwen Stacy's father, George Stacy, the chief of the Manhattan Police Department in New York. Jessica also trotted to the other side of George Stacy and said, "Yes, Uncle George, it was the boss who saved us. Although his methods were a bit rough, he also got rid of harm for the people." Then, the two women told George everything that had just happened. George's expression kept changing. He didn't expect that he would catch a robber after leaving for a while, and almost kill his daughter. Cold sweat broke out on his forehead, and the eyes he looked at Su Chen finally softened and gradually turned into shock. Obviously, they were shocked by the scene described by Gwen and Su Chen when Su Chen took action. During this period, George and two other police officers also took out their phones and took photos, as if they were checking the information of these three people. George quickly walked to Su Chen's side and said apologetically, "I'm sorry, sir, I didn't figure out what happened just now. Thank you very much for saving my daughter's life." George just bent down and bowed 90 degrees to Su Chen. Su Chen did not dodge because he did save his daughter. So much so that now my body is still full of brain matter. Besides, this man misunderstood him just now, so he should bow twice. After George straightened up, his expression returned to solemnity again, and he said, "However, although the people you killed had many lives on their hands, Nugan killed no less than 10 women, and even if he died 100 times, it would not be an exaggeration. You are doing this out of self-defense, saving lives, and eliminating harm for the people. You will not bear any responsibility under the laws of the United States. But I still have to remind you, that, guy with a broken head. It is very likely that he is the nephew of Vladimir of the Bear Mafia, that is, the son of the second in command Anatoly. Now that his son has died in your hands, he will definitely take revenge on you crazily. I still hope you can follow us back to the police station. This way we can protect you too. Quote, according to what his daughter told him, George knew that the young man in front of him was likely to know Chinese Kung Fu. As a senior police officer, he is also well informed. Knowing that Chinese Kung Fu is very strong, let alone 1 against 3 like Su Chen, even 1 against 30 is possible. It is said that there is a magical thing called Qi over there. This young man can achieve such terrifying attack power. It is very possible to have such power. If there is some darkness in his character, then this society will be very dangerous. Looking at George's eyes, Su Chen already understood what the other person was thinking. After becoming a junior GU master, his spiritual awareness and senses have improved, and he can see what is in his heart faster. Looking at George and Gwen, who looked worried and expectant, Su Chen said with a smile. Director George, I have heard of your name, but I appreciate your kindness. I don't even pay attention to people like the Bear Mafia. If they want revenge, just come. I wouldn't mind making Hell's Kitchen one less scourge then. Quote. At the end of the sentence, Su Chen actually exuded an extremely gloomy aura. George Stacy in front of him couldn't help but shudder. Even when the 35 serial murderers were interrogated last time, there was no such terrifying feeling. This young man is terrible. He didn't know why, but he believed in his heart that what Su Chen said was true. Gulu. Finally, a sound of swallowing woke George up. Looking back, the 2 police officers who followed him looked at Su Chen with some fear. Trying hard to use his professionalism to calm down his emotions, he said, okay, then I hope you will make a record with us. This is also a necessary procedure. Su Chen did not refuse this. After all, he had killed someone and needed to cooperate with the police. Then, George contacted someone from the police station to take the body away, and he also cleaned up the scene very wisely. Not long after, Su Chen completed the record at the Manhattan Police Department and received a reward of 50,000 yuan from the police department. Su Chen knew that this should be the biggest reward that George could win for him as the director. In response, Su Chen accepted the award without any pretense. What he lacks most now is really this yellow and white thing. Mr. Su Chen, if you don't mind, come to my house tonight. It's too late after all. George was still unwilling to give up and wanted to protect Su Chen, or to be able to kill Su Chen at close range. Check to see if the other person has an antisocial personality. After all, people with this kind of ability that exceed ordinary people may sometimes become a threat. Su Chen looked at Gwen Stacy, whose eyes were twinkling behind her, and smiled, I will definitely visit your home when I have time. As for the mafia people, it's okay if they don't come, but if they dare to come, Quote. Su Chen didn't say any more. After all, this was a police station, and it wouldn't be good if some words were too straightforward. George's heart skipped a beat again, and he tried his best to smile. Okay, then I'll have someone take you back. Thank you very much, Mr. George. Also, let me remind you that if you go out with your daughter, it's best not to go to a place like Hell's Kitchen. After Su Chen gave a reminder, he got into the police car. When George heard this, he naturally knew that he had almost killed his daughter just now because of his own reasons. Now that I think about it, I feel scared. Don't worry, this kind of thing won't happen again. George seemed to be making a promise to Su Chen, and also seemed to be swearing to himself. The corner of Su Chen's mouth raised. This guy is really a crazy protector of women. Su Chen, can I leave your contact information? Just when Su Chen closed the car door and was about to go back, Gwen and her 2 daughters ran over one after the other. At the moment, Gwen was bending her slender waist and looking at Su Chen expectantly. Ah, wow. Su Chen wanted to look away from the neckline of Gwen's t-shirt, but she seemed a little embarrassed. No wonder he later became Ghost Spider-Man, so good in a tight suit. This girl is really broad-minded. As for Gwen, she looked at Su Chen strangely, and then noticed Su Chen's gaze. If it were another boy, maybe she would slap him. But facing Su Chen, she felt a little happy for some reason and deliberately lowered her body. This allows Su Chen to see more clearly. Seeing Su Chen's eyes widen even more, she felt even happier. It seems that although Su Chen looks indifferent, he still has the same needs as normal men. At this time, Jessica in the back seemed to notice something. I saw Su Chen's eyes staring directly at Gwen's collar. Immediately became anxious. He hurriedly took off the scarf around his neck and opened the collar wide. Then he stood next to Gwen and said with a smile, "Su Chen, I also want your contact information. So what if you are a best friend? When facing the man you like, you should bravely show your strengths to him." Hearing this life's hum, Su Chen's eyes were also attracted. Seeing this, Su Chen almost exclaimed. After giving his contact information to the two women, Su Chen rushed to his store in a police car. The civilized watching of the game just now made him realize that he was still in a bit of embarrassment. Seeing Jessica, who was much bigger, Su Chen actually got a nosebleed. This made the two police officers and George think that Su Chen was injured. These two girls are more talented than girls of the same age. Until he left, he could not forget the playful smiles of Gwen and the two girls. He is an adult after all, even if this body is now 17 or 18 years old. You're not so hot-blooded, why are you being laughed at by two little girls? Quote, "No, I will come back with revenge no matter what I say in the future." On the other side, in a luxury building in Hell's Kitchen. This seems to be an entertainment venue integrating accommodation, dining, gambling, etc. In fact, it is the headquarters of the Bear Mafia, one of the major forces in Hell's Kitchen. At the moment, in an office on the top floor, a sinister-looking furry bear man roared ferociously. "Who on earth killed my son? I want to chop him into pieces." Immediately afterwards, there was a sound of smashing in the house. After a long time, it finally stopped. "You shits, why don't you follow my son when he goes out?" This man is Anatoly, the second in command of the Bear Mafia. He was also the father of the fair-skinned man Su Chen killed. Just now someone came to report that his son had been killed, and now the body has been transported back by the police. Feeling Anatoly's bloodthirsty momentum, the few boys who came to report this incident were so frightened that they knelt on the ground. "Boss, we really didn't know that the boss would be killed once he went out." The police said they didn't see who committed the murder at all, they only saw the body. The white-skinned man is also a minor leader of the Bear Mafia because of his father, Anatoly, the boss of the Viper Gang, a subordinate force of Mao Shang. These younger brothers are also members of the Viper Gang. However, he provoked the wrong person and lost his life at the hands of Su Chen. What Su Chen didn't know was that the confidentiality measures implemented by the police this time were so strict, and there was no news about his killing of the white-skinned man. This leaves a gangster like Anatoly with no recourse. You can only find a way to track it down yourself. Soon, Anatole saw his son's body. When he saw that his son's head was in pieces, he almost fainted. Immediately afterwards, a roar that spread across several streets in Hell's Kitchen broke out. "Find out for me who killed my son, and I will chop his whole family into pieces." Soon word spread throughout Hell's Kitchen. All the forces also heard about this. Hurry and secretly strengthen the deployment of personnel to prevent the Bear Mafia from losing their minds due to madness and affecting them. Vladimir, who was still playing the game of two women and one man, also learned the news. After losing interest, he killed the two naked women and came to Anatoly's office. At the moment, there was a body covered with white cloth lying in the office. After lifting the white cloth and seeing the tragic state of the corpse, even Vladimir, a gangster, couldn't help but feel horrified. The person who took action was definitely very strong, at least much stronger than the famous Punisher and Daredevil. At any rate, they have a bottom line and will not kill easily. But this murderer is obviously not from the same group as them. This also allowed Vladimir to rule out Punishment and Daredevil for the first time. Seeing his brother's grief-stricken look, Vladimir also felt a surge of anger. No matter who dares to provoke him, Vladimir, he must go to hell. Otherwise, how can we gain a foothold in Hell's Kitchen? Tully, don't worry yet. The person who killed Xiaoan, even if it is Jin Bin, we will make him pay the price. Vladimir's first thought was that the people who killed the white-skinned man were other forces in Hell's Kitchen. This deliberately affects Anatoly's mentality and disintegrates the Bear Mafia from within. Situations like this happen all the time in Hell's Kitchen. However, they are ultimately the third largest force behind the Kingpin after the Hand. He won't get messed up so easily. Seeing Vladimir's arrival, Anatoly's mood gradually stabilized. However, his expression was still full of sadness, but more ferocious, and he gritted his teeth and said, "Brother, I must make sure that guy is buried with Shaoan." Vladimir nodded in agreement and said, "Yes, Shaoan will not die in vain. If he dares to provoke us, there will be no door for him to go to hell." Except the furry bear mafia is frantically searching for the killer of the white-skinned man. In a building in Hell's Kitchen, on an enlarged Sonda stage, several strong figures frantically besieged one person. The man they were besieging was about 2.5 meters tall, and his body was as big as a hill. Even if faced with the siege of more than a dozen people, they can still be easily repelled. And every time he takes a shot, it is a fatal move. Soon, these strong men were either holding their hands and feet and screaming, or they were turned into cold corpses and were carried away. One of them turned directly into a piece of minced meat. This level of cruelty is simply shocking. At this time, a man wearing a black suit and gold eyes came over. Behind him were two young women, one of whom handed an oversized towel to the mountain man who was walking down the Sonda table. The man took the towel and wiped the sweat off his body. Then he picked up the red wine glass held by another woman. A normal-sized red wine glass looked like a mini version in his big hands. After finishing the red wine in one gulp, he walked towards the extra-large elevator. Even though the elevator was specially made, after the man stepped on it, it still sank 2 centimeters. The man with golden eyes hurriedly waved his hand to signal his men to clean up the mess, while he hurriedly followed the man on the hill. It wasn't until the elevator door closed that the man with eyes dared to speak. "Boss, we have found out that the person who killed Anatoly's son was a young Chinese man who had just turned 18. He opened a drug shop on the edge of Hell's Kitchen, and what happened?" Then, the man with eyes told the man on the mountain everything that had happened before. Finally, he asked, "Boss, do you need to tell the mafia about this?" After hearing what happened, the hill man's always stern face changed slightly. A dull voice sounded, "Chinese Kung Fu, it's interesting. Tell the mafia what to do. If they are destroyed, we can expand our territory." "Yes, boss." The man with glasses nodded respectfully and said nothing more. What Su Chen didn't know was that just by killing a gangster, he actually attracted Jin Bin's attention. Yes, this hill man is none other than Wilson Fisk. In other words, his other name is more popular, that is Jin Bin. His hill-like body is not fat, but is really built up from muscles. As for Su Chen who returned home, a reminder sounded in her mind. Ding! The host kills the evildoer and rewards the GU insect with something to feed the GU insect, a GU insect energy block. As the sound of the system fell, a small box appeared on the table in front of Su Chen. Open the lid and you will see the translucent squares neatly arranged inside. Is this the GU insect energy block? It turns out that GU insects also need to eat. Recalling the novel, Su Chen nodded slightly. Indeed, Fang Tianzun's GU insects need to eat. For example, the wine bug that can purify energy needs to drink all kinds of good wine. The moment Su Chen opened the energy block, all the poisonous pets in the store were spinning around in their cages as if they smelled their favorite food. I go, is this thing so attractive to ordinary animals? He didn't care about these poisonous pets. After all, they were just ordinary animals, and there was no need to waste the poisonous insects on them. Su Chen was thinking about something else. You can actually get rewards for killing evil people. Now, it is necessary to brush up the rewards. Even if you can't earn rewards elsewhere in New York, Hell's Kitchen definitely can. If you pick up a random gangster on the street, he will either have a life on his hands or he will be a complete robber. The white-skinned man he just killed was the nephew of Vladimir, the furry bear mafia man. The other party didn't come to him immediately. It seems that the police did not reveal their own, and George did an excellent job in this matter. This was also because there were only 3 police officers at the time, and because George was the chief of the Manhattan Bureau, it was easier to suppress the matter. Anyway, this future father-in-law. Why do I think of Gwen when I think of George? Get rid of the messy thoughts in your mind, use the energy in your body to summon the 3 GU insects from their apertures. 3 GU insects of different shapes appeared on the table. Just like those ordinary poisonous pets, after feeling the energy block of the GU worm, the 3 GU worms quickly moved towards the energy block like wolves that had been hungry for 3 days. Creak, creak, creak. The sound of something being bitten sounded. Looking into the box again, the energy block was about to bottom out. Definitely, the one that eats the most is the Moonlight GU. It ate nearly 2/3 of it. This is too delicious. As he said this, Su Chen discovered that the bodies of the 3 GU worms were all exuding a crystal clear luster. Obviously, this energy block can restore them to their best condition. The iron skin GU, which was originally somewhat dim due to one use, also emitted light. As for the Moonlight GU, it was actually a bit bigger. GU insects can actually grow. When they finished eating, Su Chen didn't feel sorry for the energy block and just absorbed them into the acupoints. Mobilizing energy, the Moonlight GU turned into light, integrated into the palm of the hand, and turned into a silver crescent moon. As the palm stretched forward, a moon blade came out from the palm. Whoosh, click, an iron billboard outside the store was split into 2 halves by the moon blade. The moon blade is a bit longer than before, it should be about half a centimeter. This energy block is really a good thing. Su Chen did not continue to try to use the iron skin poison and the cow poison. Because he has important things to do now. At the moment, in Hell's Kitchen, countless members of the Bear Mafia began to check from door to door. Many ordinary citizens living in Hell's Kitchen had their doors violently kicked in and then questioned. Definitely, many members of the Mafia took this opportunity to commit robberies. This makes the citizens miserable. Let us go, we really have never seen the murderer. At the moment, in a small Western-style building, a family of 3 were held at gunpoint by members of the Bear Mafia, and they did not dare to make any resistance. Seeing them like this, several Ni brothers from the Maoshang Mafia were proud of themselves and became more and more arrogant. Looking at the other party's teenage daughter, the 3 Mud brothers couldn't help but look at each other lewdly. Hee, don't worry, as long as you obediently take out all your valuable things and lend us your daughter for an hour, your whole family will be safe. Seeing the way the Mud brothers looked at their teenage daughters with greedy eyes, the male owner was immediately frightened. Brother, please, let my daughter go, she is only 15 years old. The man hurriedly hugged Brother Ni's thigh and begged constantly. His wife and daughter hugged each other and shivered. However, he was kicked away directly. Boom. In the astonished eyes of the man, his wife and his daughter, the bullet penetrated the skull. Tom, Dad, 2 shrill screams were heard, and the mother and daughter fell on the man in a pool of blood and burst into tears. You devils, I will fight you. The man's wife immediately lost her mind when she saw her husband's miserable condition, and threw herself at Brother Ni with disheveled hair. If you are shameless, then let you also taste the feeling of a bullet penetrating your skull. Then, Brother Ni pointed the black pistol at the woman's head and shot again. The woman's eyes widened and she fell down with despair on her face. This scene made the teenage girl's eyes widen in horror. Her body was shaking constantly, and it was obvious that her spirit had gradually collapsed. Hey, pull this girl onto the bed, and the 3 of us will take turns. It's my turn to be the first this time. Ha ha ha, we can enjoy the taste of Hina again. The 3 Ni brothers smiled ferociously and pulled up the girl who was kneeling on the ground and walked to the bed not far away, unbuttoning her belt at the same time. It seems that the 2 corpses here were completely forgotten. At the moment, my daughter was like a puppet on strings, letting several people pull her body to move. Until this time, a figure finally came quickly in the night. He was seen wearing a special black costume and a mask with 2 small horns on his head. The eyes of the mask were actually dark, without any light. This is a blind man. His skills are far beyond those of ordinary people. I jumped down in front of the foreign-style building, my nose twitched a few times, and I couldn't help but feel annoyed when I felt that 2 lives had disappeared because of my late arrival. Live, however, just as he was about to stop him, he stopped mid-sentence. Because, with his super hearing, he sensed that another figure faster than him flashed into the foreign building. Then he saw 3 light blades flashing from the opponent's palm, and the legs of the 3 Ni brothers were cut off in unison. Ah! Suddenly, 3 screams sounded. In the foreign-style building, 3 Mud brothers fell in a pool of blood. The girl crawled to the corner of the room and shivered with her last shred of reason. The figure dressed in black, with his face covered with a layer of black cloth, slowly approached the 3 Ni brothers. After seeing the tragic situation in the room, he looked at the girl with empty eyes in the corner and couldn't help but shake his head slightly. This girl's mind will probably be greatly traumatized. However, at this moment, Su Chen suddenly felt another voice appear in his mind. Help me, who can help me? Su Chen couldn't help but look at the girl in the corner seriously. However, he doesn't want others to invade his brain, control his willpower, and quickly dispel that strange will. Who are you to go against our mafia? When one of the Ni brothers saw Su Chen, he guessed that his leg was probably cut off by this guy. Enduring the pain, his right hand slowly moved towards the pistol that fell aside. However, as soon as he finished speaking, he was kicked by Su Chen. Boom! Along with the sound of the wall being smashed by the man, the figure of the other party just flew out of the vast night. At the moment, a human-shaped hole was exposed in the wall of the foreign-style building, and gravel was constantly falling down. Brother Ni, who was still screaming in pain, was so frightened that he dared not speak out anymore when he saw this scene. Looking at the man in black in front of me, he was his head on the ground like he was looking at a demon. Spare us, brother, we won't dare anymore. In response, Su Chen slowly squatted in front of the other party and said coldly, Tell me, where is the headquarters of the Bear Mafia? After hearing Su Chen's words, the man seemed to be grasping at straws. He quickly asked, If I tell you, can you let me go? In response, Su Chen raised the corners of his mouth slightly behind the black cloth and said, Definitely, maybe I can send you to the hospital. Okay, let me tell you, our Bear Mafia is located at Caesar's Hotel, please let me go. Click. Before the person finished speaking, Su Chen directly broke the other person's neck. Such a guy doesn't need to talk about credibility with them at all. Anyway, he, Su Chen, is not a good person. Just when Su Chen was about to finish off another screaming Ni brother, a voice suddenly came over. Sir, I think that's enough for you. You've already killed 2 people. Let the police handle this. Su Chen turned around and saw a man in strange clothing. Daredevil. His real name is Mark Murdoch, who is an excellent blind lawyer during the day and transforms into the crime-fighting superhero Daredevil at night. However, in Su Chen's view, the other party's behavior is no different from playing a superhero game. Because his and Spider-Man's acting styles are very similar. After beating the criminals, they send them to the police station. In fact, this has no effect on these criminals in Hell's Kitchen. The police station in Hell's Kitchen is like a nest of snakes and rats. As long as there is a knife to redeem someone, they will be released in a few days, and then they will come out to kill others. It can be said that his justice is simply child's play. Su Chen, who knows Marvel, naturally knows what this guy's abilities are. Even if the other person has no eyes, he can see more clearly than someone with eyes. Then, just like that, under the astonished gaze of the other party, he smashed the head of the last Ni brother with one punch. Lawyer Matt, I don't have time to play superhero games with you. You should know better than me the crimes these guys have committed. Also, this girl awakened the X gene, I believe you can handle things here. And send it to Xavier Academy. Please. Quote. After saying that, before Daredevil could react, he suddenly disappeared into the night. And the prompt sound came again in Su Chen's mind. Ding, the host fights crime and will be rewarded with 10 GU insect energy blocks. The extras are really worthless. A few seconds after Su Chen left, Daredevil finally reacted. I was actually made to behave like this by a young man. Looking at the mess on the ground and the trembling girl, Daredevil sighed inwardly. I know that I shouldn't seek information about the young man in black at this time, and it's better to deal with the current situation. In the future, there will definitely be a chance to see this young man who makes him feel a little dangerous. And the reason why he was so surprised just now was naturally because how could the other party know his true identity? Who is he? Now, am I no longer safe? But the idea was quickly dismissed. Although this is the first time I have come into contact with the other party, and the other party's behavior is more cruel than his old friend the Punisher. But he shouldn't be the kind of guy who likes to expose other people's secrets without any trouble. But this makes Daredevil even more confused. How was he exposed? Who is this young man? He can't be pretending to be the Punisher, right? There is a high probability that it is not possible. It seems that I have to check it carefully when I have time. Shake off these thoughts and look at the girl with empty eyes. He also suddenly felt a pain in his head, and then heard a weak voice. Help me, who can help me? At this time, Daredevil couldn't help but look serious. This girl really awakened the X gene and gained super ability. And this super ability is very similar to the famous Professor X. It seems that I really have to do some hard work. Just like that, the girl was held on Daredevil's shoulders. Before leaving, he called the police using his unnamed mobile phone number. This is what he has always done. After all, every time he fights a crime, he has to call the police. If you call the police with real information, Daredevil's true identity will soon be discovered. However, what he didn't notice was that the girl's empty eyes were always paying attention to the direction Su Chen left. The unique spiritual aura of the man in black constantly forms in my mind. Before long, the place was surrounded by Hell's Kitchen police. After seeing this tragic situation, he also took a breath of air. Director, how should we deal with this matter? One of the Nije police officers asked the white-skinned middle-aged man wearing the chief's uniform. What else can we do? The Bear Mafia has no time to deal with this kind of thing now. Let's suppress it first and say that their brothers and civilians will perish together. Ah, okay. In this way, this cruel intentional murder case was covered by them in a few simple sentences. At the moment, Hell's Kitchen is in complete disarray. Scenes of interrogation, beatings, and even shootings can be seen everywhere. The traffic has already been chaotic. For a time, people in Hell's Kitchen were panicked, and many citizens ran to other parts of Manhattan to seek refuge. However, amidst such chaos, a dark figure kept appearing in various places. In a short period of time, many murders were prevented. As for the members of the Mafia, every one of them had their heads cut off or punched through. For a time, the citizens of Hell's Kitchen gradually remembered this figure. At the moment, inside the Caesars Hotel, Vladimir sat at the top, followed by his younger brother Anatoly. At the same time, other senior officials of the Woolly Bear Mafia were also called over. One by one, the younger brothers came to report, but they did not hear any substantive news. Finally, Anatole couldn't bear it anymore and raised his hand to smash the cup in his hand. Trash, a bunch of rubbish, raising a bunch of losers like you. The younger brother who reported it was so frightened that he did not dare to speak loudly. Even the top brass kept their mouths shut. Anatoly is the second in command of the Hairy Bear gang. Now that his son has been killed, it would be a good thing not to anger them. Vladimir, who was at the top, looked at the faces of everyone and naturally knew that they had not found any useful information either. Also filled with rage. It's just such a small thing. Is it possible that there are no clues at all? What do you do for food? Many senior executives didn't dare to breathe when they saw the boss getting angry. Until one of them stood up tremblingly and said, "Old boss, I have something to report to you here." Upon hearing this, Vladimir and Anatoly said at the same time, "Speak." The man closed his eyes, as if preparing to be angered, and spoke with a fearful expression. "The brothers we just went out to investigate, many people died one after another. According to the news that came back, it was a man in black clothes who did it. I suspect that this is the person who killed Master N." Quote. At this time, the two brothers Vladimir and Anatoly couldn't help but look at each other. Then, everyone saw the look of rage in each other's eyes. "Why are you reporting such important news, you guy?" Boom. With the sound of a gunshot, the senior executive was shot directly in the head by Anatoly. The other high-level officials evaded one after another. Suddenly, the scene became uncontrollable. "Send out everyone, find that guy, break his hands and feet, and capture him alive. I will make him taste all the torture in the world." Anatoly roared, and the members of the Bear Mafia headed outside. However, not long after, I heard bursts of gunshots and screams coming from outside. The two Vladimir brothers and many senior officials stood up immediately, and a bad feeling immediately arose in their hearts. "Boss, a man in black is outside and is killing people in our headquarters. Many brothers are already dead." This is when a gang boy stumbled in and reported with a look of horror on his face. At this time, many senior executives present knew that the murderer actually came to the door. This simply means not taking their mafia seriously. "I'm going to cut him into pieces." Anatoly had completely lost his mind. He roared angrily, picked up an MGL-40 grenade gun, and headed outside. Vladimir hurriedly pressed a button, and the wall behind the leader's chair opened, filled with various heavy weapons. He said to many senior officials and all the younger brothers, "Choose your weapon and follow me to kill him." Although his tone was rough, he still had a bad feeling in his heart. The people who can break into their base camp are definitely not ordinary people. Da da da. Boom boom. In the hotel lobby, gunshots and explosions kept ringing. But the black figure was shuttled back and forth quickly. Except for the clothes that were a little tattered. No harm was done. The corpses of mafia soldiers were gathering more and more, and the reminders in Su Chen's mind kept ringing. Ding, the host kills the criminals and will be rewarded with a GU insect energy block. Ding, the host kills the criminal leader and is rewarded with 10 GU insect energy blocks. Ding, the host kills the criminals and rewards the host with a little energy. Quote. Are they actually rewarded with energy points? Now, Su Chen became even more motivated to kill the mafia people. You guy, I want you to be buried with my son. Boom. Boom. Just as Su Chen was killing, a super large caliber bullet with a caliber of 30 centimeters was fired at him. Along with the explosion, Su Chen's entire body was covered in smoke. The surrounding mafia members who attacked Su Chen were also affected and were screamed and blown away. It's easy for you to die like this. I will crush your bones to avenge my son. Anatoly saw Su Chen covered in smoke, holding a large caliber version of Gatling in his hand, with a ferocious look on his face. When the smoke dispersed, a scene that horrified him happened. Su Chen's clothes were in tatters, a trace of blood flowed from the corner of her mouth, and there were a few burnt beards on her body. Looking carefully, Su Chen's body exudes a dark luster. After casting the iron skin GU, a layer of ink adhered to the entire body, as hard as steel. I'm still not strong enough to defend against everything. Su Chen couldn't help but spit out a few mouthfuls of bloody phlegm. Anatoly's ferocious expression gradually became a little nervous. As the second in command of the mafia, he had heard about mutant, super ability. The guy in front of him, who couldn't even be killed by a large caliber grenade, was obviously not an ordinary person. But it was soon replaced by the pain of losing a child, and his face turned ferocious again. No matter who it is, he must die. No matter who you are, if you kill my son, you have to pay for his life. Go to hell, you yellow. Pissed. This time, before Anatoly finished speaking, a crescent blade of light cut through the air and flew past his neck. Gulu. Anatoly's head just rolled to the ground, and then blood was seen spraying crazily from his neck. Ding, the host kills the criminal deputy leader and rewards the servant GU. Tori. Vladimir, who was coming from behind, happened to see this scene, and his breathing stopped immediately. Seeing the headless corpse lying in a pool of blood, and the head rolling aside with a hateful expression on his face, Vladimir's heart was about to bleed. Looking up, Su Chen, who could be seen in the distance, was extending his right hand towards this side. Obviously, this guy was responsible for his brother's death. At the same time, it was this guy who caused everything in front of him. Anger surged from his chest, and he wanted this guy to go to hell. Mutant, a person with super ability, can do anything and must die. Kill him. Vladimir roared and pulled the trigger on Su Chen. Su Chen snorted coldly and used all the power in his body on the iron skin GU. Then, he yelled loudly, "One cow GU." An OXGU resting on one side of the orifice turned into rays of light covering Su Chen's whole body. In an instant, Su Chen felt that her body had endless power. This time, faced with attacks from numerous large caliber bullets and small armor-piercing projectiles, Su Chen did not confront them head-on. The body constantly dodges. Click, click. The sound of broken bones sounded, and many senior executives behind Vladimir, as well as many mafia gangsters present, were beaten beyond recognition by a dark figure. If a scene like at the moment were played on TV, it would be mosaic. The power of a cow GU is too powerful. So much so that if a fist hits an ordinary person, the bones will break. Help, this is the devil, run away. I surrender and I swear never to be a gang member again. Please, my grandma will get married tomorrow. At this time, many members of the Bear Mafia were so frightened that they completely lost their will to resist. Su Chen is simply like a demon from hell, killing people without blinking an eye. But what they didn't know was that Su Chen's consciousness was more immersed in the prompts in her head. Ding, the host kills the criminals and will be rewarded with a little energy value. Ding, the host kills the criminals and will be rewarded with an energy block. Ding, the host kills the top criminals and will be rewarded with 10 points of energy value. Ding, congratulations to the host for accumulating enough energy and breaking through to the intermediate level of GU Master. Quote. After breaking through a small realm, Su Chen felt that his strength had skyrocketed again. It's even easier to use with a cow's poison. Soon, the furry bear mafia, which included thousands of people, was dying and running away. In the end, only Vladimir was left with a look of disbelief. Even the senior officials behind him had become broken corpses. Look around again, there is no one alive anywhere. The strong smell of blood spread throughout the hall, and the guests who came here to play had disappeared long ago. Staggering, Vladimir sat on the ground as if frustrated. Who are you? Vladimir's voice was hoarse. After all, he is the boss of a gang with thousands of people. After seeing Su Chen's ferocity, he has not lost his mind and is already stronger than the average person. In response, Su Chen, who was covered in darkness and covered with some blood, shook his head slightly. Actually, we have no grudges at all. I can only say that you are unlucky. In other words, it's your nephew who shouldn't have provoked me. At first, Su Chen just wanted to kill the white-skinned man so that he could try out his newly acquired ability, eliminate evil for the people, and show off in front of Gwen and the other two women. Moreover, he also received the reward that Gwen's father George fought for afterwards. This matter can be described as killing 4 birds with 1 stone. But who knew that the white-skinned man's uncle was Vladimir? They searched everywhere for their whereabouts and wanted to cut themselves into pieces. That's not up to him. His character, Su Chen, is a vengeful person. Even if he is not as dark and self-interested as the great love immortal, he cannot give his enemies a chance to retaliate against him. What's more, you can get system rewards by killing evil people. It can only be said that Vladimir ran into it himself. Spare me, I am willing to exchange all my wealth for my life, and I also promise that I will never retaliate against you or fight against you in the future. Vladimir had long lost the idea of revenge, and he was also afraid of death. Su Chen looked at the other party's ashen expression and frowned slightly. The other party's wealth is definitely far beyond his imagination, so it's not impossible to let him go. Then, he slowly raised his hand, and a moon blade larger than before burst out from his right palm. Phew, like his brother, Vladimir was decapitated by the moon blade. Vladimir's final expression was one of infinite despair. Again, the other party did have a lot of money, but Su Chen didn't want to give others a chance to counterattack. The Marvel world is so big, anything can happen. Maybe one day Vladimir will gain extraordinary power, which will cause him some trouble. There are too many such things. Just like Killian in Iron Man 3, if it weren't for Tony Stark's halo as the protagonist and the resistance of those mechas that cost money, his life would have been lost long ago. Ding, the host kills the criminal leader and rewards the furry bear mafia with all the property. Reward a GU worm, a wine worm. Su Chen was a little surprised. She didn't expect that killing Vladimir would actually result in a new GU insect reward. He tore off a relatively clean curtain next to him and wrapped it around him. He looked at a few unopened grenades next to him, picked them up, pulled them open, and threw them somewhere. Boom, boom, several explosions sounded, and the entire Caesar's hotel burst into flames. The movement here quickly attracted the attention of everyone in Hell's Kitchen. This night, the entire furry bear mafia was completely destroyed. And the person who caused all this had already used the tyrannical power of a cow GU to leave quickly. Soon, the police arrived belatedly, including Gwen's father, who had just gone home and slept for less than 2 hours, also rushed here. Seeing the tragic situation of the bear mafia, after it was confirmed that the leader Vladimir, his brother, and all the senior officials of the bear mafia were killed, they were all dumbfounded. Who did the bear mafia provoke to end up with such a tragic outcome? George's mind suddenly thought of the young man who saved his daughter a few hours ago. He quickly rejected this idea. The other party did no Chinese kung fu, but it was impossible for him to cause such damage by himself. In the end, it can only be characterized as a gang shopping spree. Even which gangster is fighting with the bear mafia, there is no conclusion. The store has 2 bedrooms and 1 living room, and the system is very conscientious. The reward for this store also includes a place to live. After washing herself, she put on a pair of pajamas and began to explore her reward system. Redeem rewards. Ding! The rewards are distributed successfully. As the reminder sounded, many GU insect energy blocks were piled up on Su Chen's bed, bedside table, and even on the floor. Yes, a furry bear mafia can exchange for so many energy cubes, they deserve to die. Su Chen doesn't have any psychological burden about destroying the bear mafia. With 1 less gang in Hell's Kitchen, it's safer for the residents living there. Definitely, as long as you live in a place like this, safety is still a luxury. After all, let alone the hand and the kingpin forces that have been entrenched for hundreds of years. There are countless gangsters as big as Hell's Kitchen and as small as file size. Otherwise, it would not have become the #1 criminal district in the world. Looking at the many translucent energy cubes, Su Chen's first reaction was how to save so many. Do these energy cubes have a shelf life? If they have been stored for a long time, they will no longer be usable, which is a waste. It would be great if there were space treasures like those in novels. Time stops in space, so there is no need to worry about this. Finally, Su Chen collected all the energy blocks and put them into several storage boxes, leaving only 18 blocks and divided them into 3 piles. Release the 3 GU insects in the orifice. After feeling the smell of the energy block, the 3 GU worms pounced on it like hungry wolves. Because of the battle just now, the 3 GU worms have been overconsumed, and they are all a little dull. The Iron Skin GU is the most obvious, relying on it to withstand the Mafia's hot weapon attacks. During this period, Moonlight GU still wanted to snatch the energy blocks of the other 2 GU insects, but was stopped by Su Chen, who had anticipated it. If you are allowed to eat so much all the time, the other GU insects will become malnourished. In this way, the 3 GU insects, except for the Moonlight GU who still had some unfinished ideas, lay down on the table to rest contentedly. Su Chen nodded with satisfaction when he saw that their bodies, which had been dulled by overuse, were once again glowing. Judging from their appearance, Su Chen felt that the quality of the energy blocks rewarded this time seemed to be higher. Killing criminals is indeed the best way to earn rewards. Let the system release the GU obtained by killing Vladimir. A milky white GU worm similar to the Moonlight GU emerged. The only difference is that this GU insect has 2 wings that are constantly flapping on each side of its body. Liquor worm. Auxiliary GU worm. It can purify the energy in the host's body, making the GU master's energy quality higher, making his attacks more powerful, and at the same time, it has the effect of slightly improving his qualifications. After seeing the introduction about this wine bug, Su Chen was immediately excited. Although this wine bug is only an auxiliary type of GU bug, in a sense it is more valuable than Moonlight GU and Ox GU. Because, it can purify the quality of ability in the body. This also means that Su Chen's strength far exceeds that of GU masters of the same level. However, he is probably the only GU Dao practitioner in the Marvel world. If there is anything else related to GU, it can only be their Chinese Miao Zhang GU technique. But those in the past life were just legends, let alone the Marvel world, and the chance of their existence was extremely low. The moment the wine bug came out, it exuded a strong aroma of wine. Su Chen almost got drunk when she smelled this smell. Fortunately, after practicing GU Dao, my mental strength became much stronger. I shook my head and returned to normal again. However, the other 3 GU insects were not so lucky, and they were on the verge of collapse. Finally, they all fell on the table, as if they had fallen down from drinking. This wine bug is really weird. Put the 3 GU insects into the orifice. He is now an intermediate GU master, and the GU master's energy is more powerful and can nourish them better, and they will soon return to normal. As for the wine bug, since it has wine in its name and its body smells of wine, it will definitely like wine. Thinking of this, Su Chen hurriedly took out a bottle of Huasha Maotai that he had bought for collection. Sure enough, after Su Chen opened the bottle cap, the wine bug was like a shark smelling blood. It flapped its wings and got into the Maotai bottle. Su Chen saw the wine falling at a speed visible to the naked eye through the mouth of the bottle. In the end, they were all drunk by the alcohol bug. It's unimaginable that a file-sized bug on his finger actually drank more than 600 milliliters of wine. Looking at the wine bug again, there is still no change. Where did it drink the wine? At the moment, the wine worm was a little shaky, but it emitted a more intense light. At the same time, emerald green light gushed out from its body. Su Chen guessed that this was probably the pure power transformed by the wine bug. Su Chen tried to absorb these rays of energy, and suddenly felt an extremely pure energy penetrate into her body. What's even more amazing is that the injuries on his body are healing at a very fast speed. Obviously, because of these pure energies, the healing of injuries is accelerated. Wonderful. Su Chen stopped hesitating and hurriedly released his energy to surround the wine bug. After refining the first 3 GU insects, Su Chen also gained some experience. The weaker the GU insect's willpower, the easier it is to refine. The wine bug who just drank a bottle of Maotai is a little drunk, so this is the best time to subdue him. Just like the first 3 GU worms, the liquor worm immediately began to struggle violently after sensing that his will had been invaded. I want to use my own energy to disperse Su Chen's energy. However, Su Chen's energy is very strong now, and energy is constantly flowing out of her body to wrap around the struggling alcohol worm. The wine bug was a little drunk, but the strength of his struggle was even greater than that of the previous Moonlight GU. Fortunately, he had broken through to the intermediate level of GU Master and his energy had increased by more than 5 times, otherwise he would have been very likely to suffer backlash. As time passed, beads of sweat appeared on Su Chen's forehead. Now, he is competing with the GU insect to see whose willpower is stronger. With a slight cracking sound, the liquor bug's body split open. Su Chen was shocked. It was over, the refining would not have failed, the wine bug would explode and die, right? Su Chen's panic soon turned into surprise, because he discovered that the body of the wine bug had indeed cracked after the shattering sound. But a new emerald green body was born. Until the original white body was completely replaced by a body that was completely green, like emerald. The wine worm finally stopped struggling, which also meant that the refining of the wine worm was finally successful. The body of the wine worm exudes a stronger aroma of wine, accompanied by emerald green energy. There was no need for Su Chen to actively absorb it, the energy entered his body on its own. After this pure energy flows through the body, the entire meridians emit crystal light. Most of the injury has healed, and I should be fully recovered after just sleeping. Su Chen was overjoyed. The benefits of GU insects are really great. It would be great if there was a GU insect that could instantly recover from injuries, so that even if you were injured, you wouldn't be nervous. Looking at the wine worms emitting a faint green light, Su Chen knew that refining the wine worms this time also took a lot of consumption. He took out more than 20 GU insect energy blocks and placed them on the table. Like other GU worms, the wine worm quickly lands on the energy block and eats it. It's true that wine bugs like wine very much and can even use wine as food, but they can also use energy blocks instead. The same goes for other GU insects. They must have their own favorite food, but energy blocks are more effective. When the wine bug finished eating the energy block, the light on his body was completely restored. A ray of energy was drawn to the green wine bug and collected into its aperture. The wine bug entered the aperture, and the Moonlight GU, which originally occupied most of the area, hurriedly moved aside as if it had seen something terrifying. Wine bugs do not attack GU bugs, but Moonlight GU does not dare to provoke them, and is even afraid of them. After entering the intermediate level of GU Master, Su Chen not only further improved his strength, but also expanded his acupoints a lot. 4 GU worms can be accommodated easily, and even a few more will be no problem. After the wine worm entered the aperture, Su Chen felt the energy in his body slowly enter the body of the wine worm, and then released streams of purer energy. Finally, everything in the body is converted into pure energy refined from the alcohol bug. Su Chen walked out of the store and stretched out his palm towards the far wall. Whoosh! Along with the sound of the air being cut, a wider and more solid moonblade was emitted. Wow! Stone chips fell off the wall, and a large hole was created. This is simply destructive. The attack power generated by the purified energy has increased by at least 3 times. Similarly, after breaking through to the intermediate level of GU Master and purifying the energy, the physical strength is also several times stronger. At least, now he is not afraid at all even if 3 Captain Americas join forces. And Captain America alone is as powerful as a small army. Moreover, this is just Su Chen's pure physical power without using any GU insects. If GU is used, Captain America cannot be used as a standard. Even against Banna, who had just become Hulk, Su Chen dared to fight. Alarm sirens sounded from Hell's Kitchen from time to time, but Su Chen ignored them and released another GU insect. This was the reward for killing Vladimir's younger brother, the father of the white-skinned man, Anatoly. Servant GU. External use GU. You can use it on others to make them slaves, and you can control their minds from thousands of miles away. He used pure energy to wrap up the GU insect, which looked a bit like a marionette, and subdued it in a short time. This GU insect cannot be used now, but it will definitely be used in the future. Marvel is so big, it would be very convenient to have a servant to help you do things. Afterwards, Su Chen checked his account and found that there were more than 2.5 billion in assets. Su Chen couldn't help but be shocked for a long time. He thought that the Maoshong Mafia only had assets of 1 to 2 billion. I didn't expect so much, how rich these gangsters are. It's hard to imagine how all this money was made based on the suffering of others. Gambling and drugs are probably just the most basic businesses of the underworld. Where are those people who disappear from time to time? With the various human organs appearing on the black market, it is estimated that only these guys know what is going on. In other worlds, such assets can be squandered for several lifetimes, but in this world full of crises, money is not everything. I still have to open my own shop. While rewards can be earned for fighting crime. But the store was also a way to get rewards, and he didn't want to throw them away. After confirming several times that he had become a billionaire, Su Chen's joy was beyond words. However, this was his first time engaging in such a high-intensity battle, and he was somewhat physically and mentally exhausted. The harvest this time was very rich, and those higher-quality energy blocks could feed 4 GU worms for at least a few days. The biggest catch is the wine bug. Its effect on cultivation and strength improvement is really great. However, he is now an intermediate GU master. These 4 GU insects are all GU insects used at the GU master level. Once they break through to the next level, they will not be of much use. Including a cow voodoo, the final power will be completely integrated into one's own body and cannot be superimposed with the voodoo. Su Chen is not too worried. He will definitely encounter evil people in the future, and he will just get rewards on them. Inside another luxury mansion in Hell's Kitchen, the huge Jin Bin stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window on the top floor of the building. He was wearing a special suit, and from time to time he was shaking a red wine glass that was like a miniature version in his hand. "Boss, this Su Chen is so powerful, will he threaten us?" The gold-eyed man behind told Jin Bing that Su Chen alone was responsible for the destruction of the Bear Mafia. At the moment, his face was full of nervousness and fear. What kind of pervert is he that wiped out the Mafia all by himself? Although the Mafia is not as powerful as the Kingpin, it is at least a large gang with 1,000 people. You can also be ranked first in Hell's Kitchen. It was actually destroyed by Su Chen alone. This has seriously threatened their safety. The threat is certain, but as long as he doesn't provoke us, there's no need to be an enemy. Besides, there will be relevant departments involved in this matter, so we don't have to worry too much. Quote. Jin Bin's eyes couldn't help but narrow when he thought of that mysterious organization where any agent was extremely outstanding. He, Kingpin, was not even afraid of people from the military, but he did not dare to provoke that organization easily. Thinking of that black braised egg, I couldn't help but feel sick. It's not that he's afraid of the official organization directly under the parliament, but it's just too troublesome to get entangled with those agents. If there's one thing Kingpin hates most, it's agents that can hack into your headquarters' computers at any time. However, he vaguely knew that the organization liked to be exposed to all kinds of strange people and strange things. For people like Su Chen who have powers that are far beyond ordinary people, they will never miss it. Keep an eye on Norman Osborn these days. This guy is starting to be dishonest again. He seems to be developing some kind of serum. He wants to eradicate the hereditary disease in their family and get out of my control. This is simply a wishful thinking. Quote. Jin did not mention Su Chen's matter again, but became a little angry because of another matter. Okay boss, I will keep an eye on that guy. If necessary. In the end, the man with golden eyes just made a gesture of cutting his neck. Jin Bin didn't even turn his head, as if there were eyes behind him, he nodded. Go ahead. Also, pay attention to the scientific project he invested in. It is said that if the research and development is successful, limbs can be regenerated. If it really succeeds, we will capture the person in charge of this project and produce it for us. The scientist's name is Kurt Connors. Quote. Yes. Chapter 11. Su Chen woke up naturally after sleeping. She got up and stretched out, feeling refreshed. After experiencing this battle, he even doubted whether he was born with a cruel factor. Killing so many gang members without feeling any discomfort, is this also a kind of ability? Once you feel that your injury has completely improved, stop thinking about it. Walk out of the hall in your pajamas and turn on the TV. Last night, the Bear Mafia headquarters was blown up, killing many gang members and leader Vladimir. The police said this was a gang fight in Hell's Kitchen, and the incident is still under investigation. Quote. Looking at the picture of the Caesar Hotel with flames rising into the sky at night, Su Chen turned off the TV with an expressionless expression. I did make a bit of a fuss this time, but I don't know if the black braised egg noticed it. He's not afraid of S.H.I.E.L.D. The current S.H.I.E.L.D. should still have that long and smelly name, riddled with holes penetrated by Hydra. It's almost the same as Serpent S.H.I.E.L.D. Being entangled with these guys is also a problem. However, I am somewhat interested in their Tesseract Su Chen. After all, it is the space gem, one of the 6 infinite gems. Soon, breakfast arrived. After breaking through to the intermediate level GU Master, Su Chen felt that his appetite was obviously growing. I ordered Chinese food for 5 people, and I was full. Hello, do you sell poisonous insects here? Su Chen had just finished clearing the table when a thin man walked in. It's business. Su Chen stood up hurriedly and welcomed the thin man wearing a black mask in. Sir, what kind of poisonous pet do you need? Su Chen had a smile on his face, thinking about how to make money from this guy. Are the bugs here poisonous? The thin masked man looked at the various poisonous pets curiously. It was obviously the first time he had seen such a strange insect. Su Chen was a little confused as to why the other party asked this, but still explained seriously. Sir, the fact that you come to my poisonous pet shop proves that you have very good vision. To be honest, these poisonous pets of mine come from all dangerous places in the world. For example, this mosquito is named Colorful Ghost. Just one mouthful of venom is enough to kill 10 people. Quote. What he said was true. The poisonous pets rewarded by the system were not only colorful in appearance, but also highly toxic. It is stronger than some poisonous insects on the earth. Okay, I bought this one. How much does it cost? The man didn't even ask any more questions. He immediately asked the price, as if he was in a hurry to leave. Hey, this bug comes from an altitude of more than 3,000 meters. Okay, is 50,000 yuan enough? Su Chen was thinking about how to make up the origin of the spider. When he mentioned the price, the man directly took out the 5 snail cash and put it on the counter. Su Chen's eyes lit up. This was a big customer, so he had to raise the price. The profiteer's face showed. Well, this one is actually a little more expensive. After all, it's difficult to catch. It costs this amount. Su Chen directly stretched out 10 fingers. Okay, just 100,000. After saying that, the man took out the 5 snail cash from his bag. As if he was afraid that Su Chen would regret it, he asked Su Chen to check the money quickly. Su Chen was a little confused. This was too arrogant, it seemed like it would be less. After Su Chen confirmed that it was $100,000 and it was all real money, the man left in a hurry. Why is this guy afraid of being robbed? After the man left Su Chen's drug shop, he immediately made a call. Mr. Obadiah, we have bought all the poisonous insects. We can definitely kill Tony Stark quietly. After the man left, Su Chen put away the $100,000, and the system prompt sounded again in her ears. Ding, congratulations to the host for selling 100,000 yuan, rewarded with medical GU. Medical GU. It can cure all injuries, even terminal illnesses, and poisons in the body can also be treated. It is not restricted by the GU master's level and will become stronger as the GU master becomes stronger. They actually rewarded another GU worm, and it was also a medical GU. Could it be because they made more money this time? This medical GU came just in time. I had thought before that it would be great if there was such a GU. The system really understands me. Although there is Iron Skin Gu's defense, his own strength is not yet strong enough to ignore all attacks. But if you are facing super armor-piercing projectiles and grenades, it is still a bit dangerous. With this GU worm, you don't have to worry about getting hurt. The most important thing is that this GU worm is still the kind of GU worm that can upgrade according to its strength. Unlike the previous ones, they have no effect after breaking through the GU Master Realm. You need to change to a higher level GU insect. Medical GU can completely grow as the Master's strength increases. As long as the GU insect doesn't die, you can keep using it. Yes, GU insects can die too. You may die if you consume too much or if you are attacked. Su Chen happily accepted $100,000, exchanged it for medical GU, and prepared to refine it. The body shape of medical GU is like a medicine capsule, with the upper and lower parts being red and green respectively. If it weren't for the two almost invisible little eyes growing on the top, you would have thought it was a capsule medicine when you first looked at it. Learn the method of conquering the wine bug yesterday and put a few energy blocks on the table. The medical GU's capsule-like body immediately floated over there. Then, the energy block was seen to become smaller rapidly. Does it have a mouth? After watching for a long time, Su Chen didn't see the mouth of the medical voodoo, which meant that the energy block could be directly absorbed by the voodoo. Through the introduction of the system, Su Chen finally understood the characteristics of medical GU. Medical GU loves to eat all kinds of herbs. Even without a mouth, he can sustain himself by absorbing the medicinal energy of the herbs. GU worms are really getting more and more amazing. Su Chen couldn't help but sigh. When the energy block was completely absorbed by the medical GU and began to shake, Su Chen immediately started refining it. However, the refining difficulty of this medical GU is obviously higher than that of the wine bug, so it is destined to be a protracted battle. The days just passed by. A few days later, on a school bus, blonde Gwen and brunette Jessica sit together. Today is the weekend, and their school organized students to go to the Osborne Industrial Building to visit the biological exhibition. Gwen and Jessica were already interested in all kinds of small animals, so they were naturally willing to participate. Gwen, look at how fat my little Kai has become. Jessica lifted her sleeves, and a colorful scorpion came out, lying inside very docilely. After seeing the little snake, Gwen's eyes lit up and she said happily, "Wow, Jessica, what did you feed it? It grows so fast. It's just some dried meat and the like. I didn't expect it to like these." Jessica teased the scorpion with her fingers and you could tell she loved it. Gwen looked at the other party and quietly took out a colorful spider from her pocket. "Look, my Wawa has grown a little too." Jessica looked equally surprised when she looked at the spider in Gwen's hand. This spider actually grows faster than her scorpion. What did Gwen feed her? I didn't feed her anything. Wawa likes to eat some leaves, so I always pick some for her. The two looked at each other and finally believed what Su Chen said. These two poisonous pets are indeed somewhat different. Definitely, just what they eat is a little different from ordinary spiders and scorpions. No other abnormalities were found. Soon, the bus stopped in front of a building. After Gwen and Jessica got out of the car, they followed everyone into the Osborne Industrial Building. It has to be said that although the Osborne Industrial Building is not comparable to the Stark Industrial Building, the first building in New York, it is still not small in scale. Inside the building, there were many researchers in white coats walking back and forth. Everyone took the enlarged elevator to the top floor. Then I saw a whole floor of glass display cabinets, which contained hundreds of small animals of various shapes. Many students' eyes lit up. This was the first time they saw so many new species. Although it is a product of technology, it looks very strange. It's just a green lizard, the product of a combination of 3 lizard genes. This is a new species of frog. Although it has no name, it is the genetic product of 2 species of frogs and 3 species of toads. Quote. Under the introduction of Osborne industrial staff, many students gained insights. Unexpectedly, the gene chains of these creatures can be reorganized to give birth to new animals. This can be regarded as a kind of imaginative initiative. Then who created these creatures? At this moment, a boy suddenly raised his hand and raised this question. Just as the staff was about to explain, they saw a one-armed middle-aged man in a white coat walking over and hurriedly stepped forward and introduced. It's this person who is an authority in biogenetic science and DNA recombinant science. Dr. Kurt Connors. All the new creatures here were created by him. Quote. Although the middle-aged man has lost his right forearm, his eyes are bright and he does not look like a pessimistic disabled person. Yes, I am the authority in the biological world. The middle-aged man agreed with the other party's words without any humility. It was obvious that he was quite confident in his ability. Doctor, can you explain to us the characteristics of these new creatures? Definitely. Afterwards, Dr. Connors introduced his results to many students. Although this lizard is a new creature, its self-healing ability is 10 times that of other lizards. The classmates listened with great interest, but 2 of the girls felt a little bored and started talking quietly. Gwen, why do I think these little animals are not as good as those in Su Chen's store? I think so too. Although there aren't many poisonous pets in Su Chen's store, they always feel weirder than the ones here. These 2 women are Gwen and Jessica. The second girl obviously felt a little bored with other things after seeing the colorful poisonous pets in Su Chen's store. Hey, Gwen, I see you here. At this moment, a surprised voice came from behind the 2 women. Turning around, a thin young man walked over with a smile on his face. Peter Parker, what are you doing here? Jessica looked at the visitor with some confusion, but suddenly thought of something. So you are working as an assistant here? Gwen also said somewhat unexpectedly at this time, hello Peter, do you work here? Peter Parker is their classmate, but usually he is busy studying and only peeks at Gwen from time to time. I always thought that Gwen didn't notice. In fact, even Jessica, who was at the same table, discovered that Peter Parker had a crush on Gwen. Later, I participated in a biology competition and was selected to work as an assistant to a scientist on weekends. It can be said that as long as Peter Parker chooses the corresponding major in the future, he will not even need to find a doctoral supervisor. But Gwen wasn't too fond of people like Peter Parker. He likes boys who are more sunny and cheerful. Especially after seeing Su Chen's heroic appearance, his mind has long been occupied by the figure of the other party. But after that incident, my father never allowed himself to go to Hell's Kitchen again. Moreover, the bear mafia was wiped out, and her father was even busier with work and had no time to take her there. But she still wants to find a chance to meet Su Chen. Being in such close contact with Gwen, Peter Parker's face turned red, but he still pretended to be calm and explained. Yes, I am now working as Dr. Connors' assistant in Osborne Industries. I also get to see Harry from time to time, and I really enjoy this job. Quote. The Harry he was talking about was Harry Osborne, the son of Norman Osborne, chairman of Osborne Industries. They were good friends, and he felt very satisfied when they came here to work as assistants and earn some money to share Aunt May's pressure. So that's it. It seems like you're really working hard. Gwen, there's a spider crawling on your hand. Just when Gwen was sincerely happy for her classmate, Jessica Jones on the side suddenly interrupted. Gwen lowered his head and saw a spider with a number written on its belly lying on the back of his hand. After seeing the spider lying on the back of Gwen's hand, Peter Parker was startled and quickly tried to find something to pull the spider off. However, it was still a step too late. The spider bit Gwen's mouth all of a sudden, and a burst of pain was transmitted to Gwen's reflex nerves. At this time, the flower hidden in Gwen's pocket quickly jumped out of the pocket, came to the spider, and also opened its mouth and bit it. It bit the spider that came from nowhere. A trace of venom penetrated the strange spider's body. The strange spider felt the pain and then let go, turned over, and fell into Gwen's hand. It was only then that Peter took a folder and patted the 2 spiders to the ground. All this happened within a few seconds, and Gwen was bitten before she could even react. And his Wawa was also photographed on the ground. However, Wawa quickly recovered. Following Gwen's pants back to his pocket, the strange spider seemed to be poisoned, moved a few legs, and died. The sound here quickly attracted everyone. Seeing that Gwen Stacy was bitten by a spider, Jonas immediately said nervously that the spider that had just been irradiated was poisonous and he should go to the hospital immediately. Gwen only felt slight pain from the wound, but nothing else. Maybe it was because Wawa saved her and kept her from being bitten for so long, so she probably wasn't poisoned. In the end, Gwen was dragged to the medical room of Osborne Industrial for a checkup. The medical level inside Osborne Industrial is even higher than that of large hospitals outside. But it turned out that Gwen was really not poisoned. Gwen was relieved now. "Gwen, I'm so sorry, if I hadn't been there talking to you, you wouldn't have been bitten." Although Gwen was not hurt, Peter Parker still felt a little guilty and felt that he had just been too hesitation. Gwen should have directly helped Gwen fight off the spider with her hands. Now, Gwen might feel that she is too timid. Gwen shook her head. "This has nothing to do with you, Peter. No one would have thought that spiders would crawl out. I'm fine, thank you for your concern, Jessica, let's go." Quote. After saying that, he took Jessica and left the infirmary. Seeing Peter looking a little lost, Dr. Kurt Connors, who was following from the side, seemed to have seen what the other party was thinking, and joked. "What, do you feel like you are embarrassed in front of the girl you like?" Hearing what the other party said, Peter Parker's face immediately turned red to the root of his neck, and he hurriedly denied. "Doctor, don't talk nonsense. Gwen is so good, and there are many boys chasing her in school. How can I, a poor boy, have the right to like others?" In response, Connors smiled and shook his head, patted the other party's shoulder, and said solemnly, "Don't worry, our experiment has a 70% chance of success. Once the serum appears, you will have half of the credit, even if you haven't gone to college yet. They all have extraordinary achievements and will surpass me when I was young. At that time, it was too easy to pursue a girl." Quote. Listening to Connor's words, Peter Parker seemed to have a bright future before his eyes. It was a future that he could not imagine, but as long as the serum was successful, it would really be possible. He nodded fiercely and said, "Okay, doctor, I will work hard." Good. What no one noticed was that a spider with the same number got into Peter Parker's pants. At the bottom of the Osborne building, few people know that this is also a large research institute. At the moment, a middle-aged man with abnormally pale skin was lying on a testing bed. Looking at the many surveillance pictures in front of him, he asked the person next to him, "Did something happen at the exhibition?" "It's okay, boss, it's just that a girl was bitten by a spider. She has been checked and is not injured." A man in a white coat who knew what was going on outside answered. "Well, don't let them disturb you, let's do this serum injection." "Okay, boss." This person is the chairman of Osborne Industries, Norman Osborne. "The reason why I am here is to solve my family's genetic disease as soon as possible. These days, Jinping has obviously found out that his situation is not optimistic, and has accelerated the pace of encroaching on his business. This company was founded by his father and cannot be destroyed by his generation. Therefore, no matter what, we must develop a serum as soon as possible to cure family infectious diseases." His own son, Harry Osborne, is now just a useless second-generation rich man with no ability to manage Osborne Industries. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so anxious to develop human serum. Even the company's original focus was on weapons development, but now he has moved closer to biogenetic technology. This wasn't because he couldn't get a piece of the pie from Stark Industries, a world-famous weapons industry, but because of himself. His father died with regret because of this disease. In his generation, once he falls, Osborne Industries will definitely be cannibalized by the Kingpin. Only by completely curing the family disease can we have a chance to prevent the king from coveting his Osborne industry. After Gwen and Jessica left the Osborne building, they took the school bus home. When Gwen got home, she found that her body was extremely weak. She thought she was too tired, so she lay down on the bed to rest. Even if her mother asked her to go out for dinner, she refused because she had no appetite. Gwen's mother was a little worried and opened the door and entered Gwen's room. Seeing that his daughter was sleeping soundly on the bed, he felt relieved. After helping Gwen cover the quilt, he quietly left. What she didn't know was that after leaving, Gwen's face was constantly sweating, and the expression on her face began to look painful, as if she had had a nightmare. He murmured to himself, "Su-Chen, help me." At the same time, Gwen's breath had a hint of blue-gray. The gas floated to a cactus in front of the bedroom window. The cactus immediately withered and finally fell into pieces in the flower tray. At the same time, there were many large and small plants in Gwen's room, all of which began to turn yellow and wither. Gwen, whose dream was not very pleasant, naturally did not know how much she had changed. Gwen stretched out the next day and felt the most refreshed she had ever felt. "What's wrong with me? Why do I feel so much strength in my body?" Gwen waved her small fists casually a few times, and roars even erupted in the air. Gwen was confused for a moment. Suddenly, his eyes noticed the blue-gray gas in the air. "What's going on? Oh my God." Looking at the desk, all the green plants on the windowsill were withered and withered. "These mist are poisonous." Gwen reacted immediately and hurriedly tried to open the window. Click, but when her hand just touched the window lightly, the window handle was broken off by her. This made Gwen startled. She looked at her hand, and when she exerted force on her solid wood bed, Gwen grabbed a corner and lifted the bed. What's wrong with me? As soon as awakening came, why did I become a strong man? No, this is simply more terrifying than the power of those strong men. Naturally, Su-Chen, who had been staying in the store, didn't know about these things. Watching the TV news boredly to see if anything new is happening in the Marvel world. For example, Captain America, a popsicle who is more than 70 years old, is discovered, a supervillain suddenly goes berserk, the Hulk returns again, and so on. To Su-Chen's dismay, there was no such news. Insert the latest news: Tony Stark, chairman of Stark Industries, has just been rushed to the hospital. It is said to be food poisoning, which caused severe coma. He is currently undergoing emergency treatment. Stark Industries has been taken over by Vice President Obama Steny. Quote, just when Su-Chen was lamenting that he was bored, this message suddenly popped up. Su-Chen almost came out. Why was Tony Stark in a deep coma? Food poisoning. Could it be that you overindulged on some cover girl? Shouldn't he be heading to the Middle East now to demonstrate new weapons? For a moment, Su-Chen didn't understand what happened. On the TV was Obadiah, the second in command of Stark Industries, being interviewed. At this time, Su-Chen suddenly noticed a man standing behind Obadiah as the camera flashed past. He immediately overlapped in his mind with the figure of the man who entered his shop not long ago and asked if his poisonous pet was poisonous. It's him. After breaking through the intermediate level of GU Master, his thinking has become more flexible. Su-Chen immediately understood why Shi-Dake was unconscious. The feelings are indirectly caused by him. The thin man was obviously Obadiah's subordinate. According to Su-Chen's understanding of the original work, Obadiah wants to kill Tony Stark and become the new owner of Stark Industries. It can be said that Tony Stark has been planning since the death of his father Howard Stark. It's just that Tony Stark is so awesome. Without his youth and ability to develop new weapons, Stark Industries would have collapsed long ago. For years, he had been exploiting Tony's achievements and secretly trading Stark Industries arms with terrorists. It can be said that this old fool ambition is obvious. It is now estimated that Tony Stark has never traveled to the Middle East. So, he sent someone to inquire about his poisonous pet shop. Purchase a poisonous bug and use it to poison Tony Stark. This guy is so scheming, he actually succeeded. Even I was kept in the dark by him. No wonder the system rewards medical GU after just selling 100,000. He indirectly changed the fate of one of the protagonists in this world. In this case, if Tony Stark really dies, then there will be no Iron Man in this Marvel world. Or will Iron Man be replaced by someone else? After a long time, Su-Chen secretly made a decision. He doesn't care if Iron Man changes players or not, it doesn't have much to do with him. But you can try to use medical GU to save Tony Stark, and you will definitely get system rewards. It has been determined that punishing evil can lead to rewards, but what about promoting good? Pretty close. Just as she thought, Su-Chen locked the door of the store, took a taxi and headed to the Manhattan Central Hospital where Tony Stark was currently staying. Manhattan Central Hospital. Outside a VIP ward, two people were waiting anxiously outside. One of the women had some freckles on her face, and the other man was a little chubby. These two people are Tony Stark's secretary and personal assistant Pepper Potts. And Happy Hogan, Tony Stark's personal bodyguard and best friend. What should I do? Tony will be fine, right? Pepper Potts looked a little flustered and at a loss. She is Tony Stark's personal assistant and occasionally takes care of his junk. It's just that they themselves don't know that they have been secretly in love for a long time. Now that Tony Stark was suddenly unconscious, she was so scared that her legs were weak. Happy Hogan on the side patted the other party on the back and said comfortingly, "Don't worry, Pepper, Tony is lucky and will not die so easily. You know, he is a genius that is rare to see in decades. How about it? I just finished sending away the media. Tony should have been rescued, right?" While the two were talking, a burly middle-aged man ran over in a panic. After seeing the person coming, Pepper Potts' eyes turned red, tears poured out of her eyes, and she replied, "I don't know what's going on. I'm rescuing him. Mr. Stan, Tony won't die." Hearing what the other party said, the burly middle-aged man secretly breathed a sigh of relief, as long as he didn't need to be resuscitated. He pretended to come to Pepper Potts and comforted him, "Don't worry, Tony will be fine." Pepper and Happy, who were worried about Tony Stark's situation, didn't notice the growing and cunning curve at the corner of his mouth. About half an hour later, the emergency door was finally opened. Pepper Potts and Happy Hogan rushed forward and asked anxiously, "How's it going, doctor? Is Tony out of danger?" They were answered with sighs from the doctors. The leading doctor was a doctor with some gray hair. He said with some regret, "I'm really sorry, Mr. Stark was poisoned by a poison that cannot be cured by current medical technology. He has been." The gray-haired doctor did not continue speaking, but through his reddish eyes you could understand what he did not say. With a sound of wow, Pepper Potts burst out crying and knelt on the ground. Holding the doctor's leg, he begged, "Doctor, please save Tony. He can definitely be saved. You should perform another operation. He was just poisoned not long ago." "Yes, doctor, please, Tony is such a genius. If he is really gone, it will be a loss to the world." Happy on the side also shed tears, bowing and pleading on the other side. The leading doctor looked at the two of them and kept sighing. "Pepper, Happy, Dr. Honor's surgical ability is the best in the world. He said there is nothing he can do, but there really is nothing he can do." Obadiah in the back suppressed the excitement in his heart, tried his best to appear as sad as possible, and began to comfort the two of them. "No, Tony can't die, he is Tony Stark." Pepper Potts, clearly losing control of her emotions, stumbled into the emergency room. Inside, two doctors were beginning to remove various instrument tubes from Tony Stark's body. On the heart rate monitor next to him, a straight line shot straight towards Pepper Potts' eyeballs. "Look at the left side of Tony Stark's neck, which is wrapped in a bandage. No, you can't die. You still have a lot of work to do. You can't be so irresponsible, you fool." Pepper Potts lay on top of Tony Stark, who had lost his breath, and kept patting him. However, as if he was too sad and lacked the strength, or as if he was afraid of hurting the other person, his movements seemed weak and weak. "Pepper, calm down, now you can only accept the reality that Tony is gone. You should give me Tony's shares for safekeeping, and I will find a way to stabilize those shareholders. If they take advantage of this moment to make a move, Stark Industries will go bankrupt." Quote. Obadiah walked up to Pepper and suggested, "It's completely gone. Once Tony Stark dies, only Pepper, his personal assistant, can transfer the other person's shares to him. As long as Tony Stark's shares are acquired, Stark Industries will also become Stany Industries. It's now, Mr. Stan, are you still thinking about these things?" Happy Hogan on the side felt a little angry when he heard what the other party said. He doesn't seem to care about Tony at all, he only cares about things in the group. How can he be considered Tony's uncle? "I'm just thinking rationally about Stark Industries' problems. Tony is gone, and I'm even 100 times sadder than you are." After being scolded by Happy, the driver, Obadiah suddenly became angry and quarreled with him. Pepper Potts at the moment, she was completely immersed in sadness and did not hear the quarrels from the outside world at all. "Oh, really, you are so sad." At this moment, a voice with a somewhat strange tone came. Happy and Obadiah turned around and saw a handsome Oriental boy who had just grown up. Obviously, that's what he said just now. Just when the two of them were wondering what this person was doing, a figure came up behind them, panting. "Boss, I'm really sorry, I didn't stop this person." This man was the thin man who went to Su Chen's store to buy poisonous insects. "Do you know that no fans are welcome here now? Mr. Tony Stark is still in first aid." Obadiah immediately thought that this was a fan of Tony Stark, and ran in while the bodyguard was not paying attention. Looking at the Oriental boy who said nothing and looked at him strangely, Obadiah gradually felt a bad premonition in his heart. He looked at the secretary and said, "Didn't the entire hospital be covered? There were many bodyguards guarding the outside. How did he get in?" "Boss, he knocked down all the bodyguards by himself." The thin man answered with some fear, while keeping his body away from Su Chen. "Who are you?" At this time, Happy on the side also realized that something was wrong. He hurriedly stopped in front. He is originally a retired Special Forces soldier. He is very skilled and he also understands the strength of the bodyguards outside. At least one person can deal with 10 ordinary people, and there are more than a dozen of them. They were all beaten to the ground by this guy. How strong is this? Even if he was standing in front, he still felt a little scared. Because he is only a little stronger than those bodyguards, can he be his opponent? At the moment, the thin man ran to Obadiah anxiously and whispered a few words in his ear. Happy Hogan wanted to hear what the other party had to say, but they deliberately stayed away from him and couldn't hear him at all. Obadiah's initial joy at having succeeded in his treacherous plot instantly dissipated, replaced by a trace of panic. But more so than anger. "It's ridiculous for you to say you can save Tony. Even world-famous doctors can't do anything. How can you save him? Get out of here." The thin man had just told Obadiah that the Oriental boy in front of him was the owner of the shop that sold their mosquito. Tony Stark is now poisoned to death because of that mosquito. He originally refused to go to the Middle East because of Tony Stark's advice, and the terrorists he contacted were unable to take action, so he was a little anxious. Suddenly someone told him that there was a strange poisonous pet shop that might be able to complete his plan. So, the thin man was sent to buy it. With the attitude of giving it a try, put that mosquito into Tony Stark's laboratory. As a result, Tony Stark was actually poisoned to death. This was simply God helping him, allowing him to fully control Stark Industries. He originally thought that everything was perfect, but this guy selling bugs actually came to his door. Could this man really be able to save Tony Stark? This possibility is very high. After all, he is the owner of that mosquito. There might be some special antidote. Now we must find a way to get this guy away, and even secretly order the thin man to call the police. Haha, if you don't try, how will you know if I can save Mr. Tony Stark? You should know this better than anyone else. Quote, seeing Obadiah's Oscar-worthy acting skills, Su Chen really wanted to give him a statuette. Even now, this old guy can still maintain this appearance. He has to admire the opponent's government. Obadiah's expression gradually turned gloomy. If there was any leak in their already seamless plan, it was definitely the young man in front of them. Because he bought the highly poisonous mosquitoes from the other party. Just when Obadiah was thinking about how to stabilize the current situation, Little Pepper suddenly pounced on him. "Can you really save Tony?" Pepper Potts, as if grasping at a life-saving straw. Happy also put down his fighting posture and looked at Su Chen doubtfully. This young man seems to have just grown up. He doesn't look like a medical student, let alone a doctor in this hospital. However, there is an indescribable confidence in him. This kind of confidence made Pepper and Happy want to believe in each other. Moreover, although they didn't want to admit it, Tony Stark had lost his vital signs now. Even the world's top surgeons were invited, but nothing could be done. At this time, a person comes out who claims to be able to save Tony Stark. Even if it is false, they can only use it as a doctor. Don't believe this guy. Does he have a medical license? He's obviously here to cause trouble. I have already called the police. What you are about to face is jail. Quote. Obadiah became more and more anxious. If he really let Su Chen save people, it would be over. The last sentence even directly contained a threat. Looking at this Iron Man, the supervillain who was Tony Stark's stepping stone, Su Chen just had a look of disdain. Although it's very impressive, it's just like that. Compared to Kingpin or those guys from the Hand, there is still a big difference. Not even Odin's other foolish son, Loki, who calls himself the god of trickery. After all, the other party was playing around with his brother. This guy will also do some shady tricks secretly. I guess the reason why I went to buy poisonous insects from myself was to poison Tony Stark. Just because Tony Stark has never gone to the Middle East, those terrorists have no way to succeed, so this guy can only find another way. However, what he is missing is that he wants to get the Tony Stark award. I don't know what kind of reward I will get for saving Tony Stark this time. Su Chen was vaguely looking forward to it. Pushing past the thin man's obstruction, he entered the emergency room. If you don't want to go to jail, get out of here. Obadiah didn't care that the other party had just beaten dozens of extraordinary bodyguards, and hurriedly stopped in front of Su Chen. Then, in a voice that only the two of them could hear clearly, he said, 5 million, leave here and I'll give it to you. Seeing Obadiah gnashing his teeth, Su Chen became even more contemptuous. In the past, he might have been tempted by the 5 million, but after acquiring the mafia's property of more than 2.5 billion, this amount of money was just a drop in the bucket to him. Moreover, he believed that the reward given by the system for rescuing Tony Stark would definitely be much higher than the 5 million. After all, this is one of the protagonists of this world. Seeing Su Chen's still hateful look, Obadiah gritted his teeth again. 10 million, don't force me anymore, even if I go to jail, you won't get any good results. Oh, then I would like to see if there is any bad fruit for me to eat. After saying that, Su Chen stopped following the guy. Is he the one who is short of that 10 million? Seeing that Su Chen was about to go around him, Obadiah burst into anger and wanted to stop Su Chen directly with force. However, at this time, Happy, who had been observing the two of them from behind, stopped in front of Obadiah. Vice President Stan, if you stop this gentleman again, I have reason to suspect that you deliberately don't want him to save Tony. Although Happy is a bodyguard and driver, his head is not all about muscles. The other party has not seen the other party's sadness since Tony was declared dead by the doctor. Logically speaking, when Tony passed away, he should be the saddest person here. But he kept talking about Stark Industries. Is this the time to talk about these tasks? In addition, the thin man who had been knocked unconscious by Su Chen looked anxious just now, as if some conspiracy was about to be exposed. Also, Obadiah has been preventing Su Chen from entering the emergency room since just now. This is clearly a sign of something evil in his heart. He felt that this matter must not be simple. Therefore, he directly stopped Obadiah and asked Su Chen to enter the emergency room. Do you know that you are harming Tony? Obadiah anxiously wanted to reach out and grab Su Chen, who had already entered, but was stopped by Happy. Seeing Obadiah's panicked expression, Happy said in a deep voice, Vice President Stan, Tony is already dead, so what if we let him try? But, as you said, what if Tony can still be saved? He is a stranger of unknown origin. This will only harm Tony. Obadiah also realized the mistake in his words and hurriedly explained. Happy was already beginning to doubt him. Rather than believing in Obadiah, a suspicious guy, it is better to believe in Su Chen, a young man of unknown origin. Su Chen came to Tony Stark's hospital bed, and it was indeed very similar to the image in the movie. Looking at the dark wounds on the other person's neck caused by mosquito bites and the painful appearance, he couldn't help but curl his lips. He himself never thought that these poisonous pets of his would be so poisonous. Please, whatever it takes, just save Tony. Pepper Potts, with tears still on her face, begged constantly. Su Chen nodded slightly when looking at Pepper Potts, who had some freckles and barely had a medium-sized figure. Then he asked again, where is the mosquito? Been shot to death by Tony. Pepper didn't know how the other party knew that Tony was poisoned by mosquitoes, but he still answered honestly. Su Chen didn't expect that the poisonous insects he sold would die like this. He still promised. Don't worry, I will save Mr. Big Shit. Ah, it's Stark. Pepper Potts was stunned for a moment, her eyes were red and she corrected a bit strangely. Why did she feel that this young man called him that on purpose? Pepper, don't believe this guy, maybe he's here to harm Tony. Obadiah, who was blocked by Happy and unable to escape, roared anxiously. In response, Pepper looked at the other party sadly and said, "Mr. Stan, what can we do even if he is a liar? Yes, Tony Stark has been declared dead. Even if he is here to harm him, how can he be harmed?" Regardless of Obadiah's incompetent roar, Su Chen stretched out her palm towards Tony Stark's neck. Seeing this scene, Obadiah became even more anxious. "You idiot, go and stop him." The thin man who was pushed away by Su Chen was grinning in pain because his head hit the wall just now. When Obadiah shouted this, he immediately became excited. He quickly got up and wanted to hold Su Chen's outstretched hand. If this man did bring Tony Stark back to life, Obadiah wouldn't let him go. Moreover, Tony Stark has great hands and eyes, and he is likely to be a scapegoat and go to jail. Seeing this scene, Happy suddenly became extremely anxious. Now he couldn't stop the two people at once. Pepper made a noise and wanted to stop the man, but she didn't have the strength to resist. He watched helplessly as the other party grabbed Su Chen's palm. However, the other party did not have any accident. He was kicked by Su Chen and hit the surgical equipment cart. With a crash, the equipment was scattered all over the floor, and the man fainted from the pain. Then, in the astonished eyes of everyone, a green light emitted from Su Chen's palm, covering the wound on Tony Stark's neck. At the moment, Su Chen mobilized the power of medical GU. I clearly felt that the energy was transformed by the medical GU, and transformed into an energy light that could heal everything. Pepper and Happy who were present looked at this scene blankly. What's this? Doing magic? No, could it be super ability? Is this treating Tony? For a moment, both of them opened their mouths. Even Obadiah, who kept shouting, his eyes widened. What did he see? This man could do magic. Now Obadiah is 100% convinced that this guy can really save Tony Stark. If this is true, the consequences he will face are simply unimaginable. At this moment, he suddenly found that Happy's attention was also attracted by Su Chen's hand. Good chance. Regardless of whether the opponent is bluffing or not, now is the last chance to stop Su Chen. Nothing he could say would bring Tony Stark back to life. Otherwise, all the long-term planning will be in vain. Obadiah pushed Happy, who was still in a daze, and rushed towards Su Chen. This time, Happy and Pepper, who were still stunned, came back to their senses. Happy's heart skipped a beat. Terrible. To actually make such a mistake. He tried to stop Obadiah, but it was too late. Pepper was directly pushed away by Obadiah. Decisively, he clenched his fist and smashed it towards Su Chen's face. "You guy, get out of here." Su Chen was not immersed in treating Tony Stark and had been paying attention to Obadiah. Seeing the other party attacking him, he didn't panic at all. This made Happy, who was chasing after him, extremely anxious and shouted, "Sir, get out of the way." However, Su Chen still didn't make any move. Because little Pepper was roughly pushed away by Obadiah, her head hit the other bed and bright red blood flowed out. At the moment, she didn't care about the pain. She wanted to get up and tried her best to stop Obadiah's movements. Then, they just watched as Obadiah was kicked several meters away by Su Chen, who looked indifferent. Accompanied by a roar, Obadiah's burly body was directly embedded into the cement wall of the emergency room, his head drooped, and he fainted. Pepper and Happy's eyes widened again. They had just witnessed Su Chen knocking the thin man away with one punch, and they thought he was very strong. As a result, looking at it now, they still thought it was too simple. The young man in front of them who seemed to be able to use magic had a mystery that they could hardly imagine. "Don't worry, he won't die. In fact, I didn't want to say it at first, but I'd better tell you now. This guy is the murderer behind Tony Stark's death." Su Chen retracted her feet while continuing to treat Tony Stark with a calm expression. "Is he the murderer behind Tony's death?" Happy and Pepper said this almost at the same time. But I immediately realized something was wrong. From the beginning when Tony announced his death, Obadiah didn't seem to be sad at all. He was also proposing how to get Pepper to hand over Tony's stock management to him, saying that this would stabilize the board of directors. I was too anxious just now and didn't notice Obadiah's performance. Looking back now, what Obadiah did was simply full of loopholes. He clearly wanted to take Tony's shares in Pepper's hands as soon as possible. In this case, he will have complete control of Stark Industries. At this time, Pepper and Happy's original doubts were lifted. You mean, in order to get Stark Industries, he accidentally got poisonous insects there, and then used them to kill Tony? At this time, Pepper, whose forehead was still bleeding, also regained his composure. I understood what was going on first. But how did you know? At this time, Happy, who also understood, was also furious, but at the moment Obadiah had become a wall decoration. There is no big threat anymore. Therefore, it is more about how this strange boy knew this. This was their internal situation at Stark Industries after all. In this regard, Xiaojiao also looked at Su Chen doubtfully. Indeed, how did the young man in front of me know so clearly? Because I sold the poisonous insect to him, and the person who bought the poisonous insect was his subordinate. Su Chen pointed his other hand at the thin man who had fainted long ago, and said the matter without any care. What, you? At this time, the hearts of Pepper and Happy, who had been relaxed, suddenly jumped again. This guy actually sells poisonous insects. Could it be that he is also here to harm Su Chen? Stop it, you guy. Happy reacted and wanted to grab Su Chen. This guy can sell poison to dead man. He must be a cat crying and a mouse here, and he must be here to harm Tony. Tony was already dead, yet he was still being harmed. For a moment, Happy was about to burst out of anger. Happy, stop it. However, he was stopped by Pepper. Happy was extremely anxious and said, Pepper, this guy must be here to harm Tony. Tony might be able to be saved. He wants Tony to die completely. Happy, calm down. If he really wants to hurt Tony, why tell us these things and expose Obadiah's conspiracy? Could it be that he came from a trap? Quote, this. At this time, Happy also realized the problem. Yes, even if this guy is a bit capable, he can't possibly harm others before coming back to the bar. What's more, he revealed the conspiracy of Obadiah, an ambitious guy. Therefore, he stopped trying to pull Su Chen away. Little Pepper also recalled that she never announced to the outside world that Tony was bitten by a mosquito and was poisoned. Why did the young man ask where the mosquito went as soon as he came in? It turns out that he already knew everything. Pepper took a wary look at the sculpture like Obadiah and said, let's hear what this gentleman has to say first. She gradually returned to her former capable female secretary appearance, and her eyes gradually became clearer. Su Chen took back the hand that released the healing light and took back the power of the medical GU. I have to say that this woman is very smart, and she can quickly analyze the general outline of the matter at this time. Tony Stark has a pretty good eye for people. Facing their gazes, Su Chen chuckled. He said to Tony Stark, who had his eyes tightly closed, Mr. Stark, stop pretending, you are fine. As soon as Su Chen finished speaking, Stark opened his eyes. At the moment, his neck had returned to its original state, as if no damage had been sustained. So, Obadiah bought a highly poisonous mosquito from you and bit me to death. And you, this magical boy, can bring people back to life. Quote. Although Tony Stark had just woken up, he clearly perceived what had just happened in the outside world. In other words, when Su Chen's medical light entered his body, he had already regained his consciousness and could hear the situation outside. Although I can't believe it, I have to confirm a fact now. Obadiah Stane, whom he considered his uncle and sometimes even a father figure, had been planning the Stark Industries founded by his father. He even doesn't hesitate to buy poisonous insects to kill him, and then completely take control of Stark Industries. All this made him even collapse. But after all, he is a smart man and a genius, and he suppresses his emotions quickly. He could even survive the death of his biological parents, let alone being betrayed. However, he didn't expect that this young man selling poisonous insects would actually have super abilities and could bring people back to life. This indeed subverted his three views. If an alien appears now, he can't be so surprised. After all, this is still a science. But the power this young man possesses is obviously unscientific and can be considered an extraordinary event. This was undoubtedly a shock to him, a man obsessed with science. I actually came back to life. At the moment, Tony Stark stretched out his hand blankly and looked at his body. He clearly felt that he had lost consciousness in pain. Looking at Su Chen's young face, is there really a god in the world? Tony, it's great that you're awake. Ooh, I thought you wouldn't wake up. At the moment, Happy and Pepper were very excited to see Tony really wake up. Definitely, it's more of a feeling that subverts the three views. Looking at Su Chen's young face, I don't know what to say. They knew Tony's condition best, he had just lost all vital signs. However, in the hands of this young man, Tony was easily revived. This is simply a miracle. At this moment, they and Tony Stark's thoughts were surprisingly consistent. Tony gradually calmed down as he looked at the crying little Pepper and the surprised Happy. He looked at Obadiah, who was kicked into the wall by Su Chen for decoration, and his eyes narrowed slightly. This young man is by no means an ordinary person. His power is probably not weaker than that of the rumored Captain America. When he was a child, he had seen the news about Captain America and knew how powerful Captain America was as a super soldier. He thought that there was only one warrior like Captain America in the world, but now he changed his mind. Looking at the injury on Pepper's head, Tony Stark sincerely pleaded. "This young magician, Mr. Magician, can I ask you to help treat little Pepper?" "It's okay, Tony, it's just a skin injury. I'll just let the doctor bandage it." Little Pepper hurriedly shook her head and looked at Su Chen with gratitude. Happy also realized that he had just misunderstood Su Chen and hurriedly apologized to Su Chen. In response, Su Chen waved his hand nonchalantly and healed little Pepper's injury. Seeing this scene, Tony Stark's eyes widened again. After seeing it with my own eyes, I was even more shocked. Looking at their unfamiliar faces, Su Chen still looked indifferent. There will be too many things that shock you in the future. As for the purpose of his trip, he has achieved it. After just rescuing Tony Stark, the system prompts in his mind were already ringing. The reward this time simply exceeded his expectations. Tony Stark comforted Pepper for a few words, then looked at Su Chen and asked, "How do you know so clearly about the situation in Stark Industries? Just because Obadiah's subordinates bought poisonous insects from you, you can be sure that he wants to murder me." Quote. Looking at Tony Stark, who had regained his mind, Su Chen frowned slightly. He did think that Tony Stark would ask this when he woke up, but he didn't think about how to answer. Soon, his brows relaxed slightly, and he said with a joking expression, "If I said that we in China have a super ability that can predict the future, would you believe it?" "I didn't believe it before." Tony Stark shook his head first, and then said, "I believe it now." Not long ago, he clearly felt that his life had disappeared. Now that this person has directly brought him back to life, what else can he not believe in his words? Well, the other party's answer made Su Chen stunned. He also thought about how the other party would make such nonsense if he didn't believe it. As a result, the other party actually believed it. Is this still the venomous genius Tony Stark? The way you open it seems wrong. He didn't know that coming back from the dead was nothing to him, but Tony Stark was still in the minds of the public after all. This impact is too great for the other party. Soon, Tony Stark returned to his cynical look and said, "Is it a little surprising? Why did I believe it so quickly? Because after being treated with your Eastern magic, not only did I regain my health, I also clearly feel that my physical fitness has improved several times. Even if I face 5 harpies now, I can beat them down." Quote. Hearing this, Happy suddenly felt unhappy. "Hey, Tony, don't lie, is that white light so magical?" Su Chen's ability to bring people back to life really subverted his 3 views. But he naturally didn't believe that the white light could change the body's quality. Although he and Tony usually keep their hands open during fighting training, but their strength is only half as good. Tony Stark is indeed a genius. Even if he has never been a soldier, he can still compete with him, an old Special Forces soldier. How could he be able to hit himself 5 times after being illuminated by the magical light emitted by that boy? You don't believe it, let's practice later. Then don't cry like the girls. Okay, I don't believe in evil anymore. Looking at Tony Stark's confident look, Su Chen knew that the other person was probably not lying. Besides, Tony Stark doesn't usually lie. Otherwise, he wouldn't have the title of bad mouth. It's because everything this guy says is the truth and it's so hateful. Even so, those business tycoons still have to look at other people's faces. There is no way, he is a genius. What surprised him was that this medical GU actually had the effect of enhancing human physique. But why didn't it have such an effect on him? After having fun with Happy for a while, and feeling that his body had fully recovered its functions, Tony Stark looked at Su Chen, who had been silent, again. But, Mr. Magic Boy, although I know that Obadiah poisoned me with poisonous insects, even if you testify, we have no evidence to convict him. We can't take that mosquito for DNA testing, right? Quote. Even if Tony Stark still doesn't believe it, he can tell from what just happened that this guy wants to kill him. Just relying on Su Chen's words, it was impossible to convict this old guy. Just call me Su Chen. Su Chen has learned a lesson about the other party's habit of giving nicknames to others. As for the evidence, I believe that Miss Pepperpotts can get some surprises from Obadiah's computer. Since the other party already believes that he has foresight, there is no need to worry too much. The information about Obadiah's arms trade with terrorists was all on the other party's computer. This alone is enough to sentence the other party to death several times. As for the fact that he bought poisonous insects to kill people, he had no evidence. The mosquito had been swatted to death by Tony Stark, and he and the Slender Man also traded cash. Therefore, if Su Chen hadn't told him about the computer, Tony Stark would have really been unable to do anything to Obadiah this time. Tony Stark opened his mouth again, but quickly recovered. Today he was a little numb from surprise. Let Pepper get his phone and order the artificial intelligence JARVIS to hack Obadiah's computer. What's going on? Tony Stark is alive. At this moment, the situation here finally attracted the attention of hospital personnel. When the gray-haired doctor saw Tony Stark sitting on the bed and chatting with others, he was shocked. He even forgot about Obadiah embedded in the wall and the thin man lying on his back. After checking the medical equipment and confirming that Tony Stark might have come back to life, and even the poison in his body had disappeared, he was completely shocked. A miracle, a miracle. Mr. Stark, you are so blessed that you have come back to life. The old professor also overturned his many years of medical experience. I have seen miracles happen, but I have never seen someone who was completely dead come back to life. I originally wanted to have many medical staff come over to observe this rare case, but Happy kicked me out. Moreover, the police also arrived one after another. This was the call made by the thin man to the police just now, wanting the police to arrest Su Chen. Who called the police that someone was causing trouble? The leading police officer saw the messy scene in the emergency room and asked sternly. This man is none other than Gwen Stacy's father, George Stacy, whom he met a few days ago. Seeing that Su Chen was here, I became even more confused. Could it be that the other person is an employee of Stark Industries? But looking at it like this, Tony Stark obviously valued the other party, otherwise how could he let a Chinese teenager enter his ward with the other party's status? Soon, Tony and Pepper Happy told George Stacy everything that happened. It's just that they hid the fact that Su Chen used super ability to revive Tony, and instead used Su Chen to use another poisonous insect to fight fire with fire to cure him. This is what Su Chen asked them to say. As for Obadiah and the thin man, they were also said to be interfering with Su Chen's rescue, so they had to be subdued. The mouths of George and the other police officers slowly opened from their original closed state. They were also wondering if the news just reported that Tony Stark was being treated for poisoning and how he was rescued so quickly. He was still alive and kicking, and it turned out to be because Su Chen saved him. And it created a miracle. Let Stark, a dead man, come back to life. Such a miracle actually happened. The two accompanying police officers behind George were the ones who sent Su Chen home before. They had seen the terrifying power of this young man, but they never expected that he had such an ability. This is amazing. After being stunned for a while, George slowly suppressed the shock in his heart and analyzed the case with the professionalism of a police officer. Unexpectedly, Obadiah actually wanted to kill Tony Stark. Tony Stark provided the police with records of Obadiah's arms dealing with terrorists. Tony, Pepper, and Happy unanimously did not say anything about Su Chen's predictions. These evidences are enough to prove Obadiah's character. The cases of arms smuggling, collusion with terrorists, treason, and the murder of Tony Stark are also confirmed. Such a crime is not punishable by death, but also by life imprisonment. Ignoring the unconscious Obadiah, the police grabbed him from the wall and dragged him away. including the thin man who was the accomplice. This guy will probably be in jail for the rest of his life. At this time, Obadiah, who was dug out by the police, also woke up, but the pain in his body made him growl. "Let me go, what are you doing? Tony, how did you survive?" No, it's great that you survived, ha ha ha. You're here just in time, capture this guy quickly, he wants to murder Mr. Tony Stark." When Obadiah woke up, his eyes almost popped out of his head when he saw Tony Stark resurrected. But as Su Chen said, it would be a pity if this guy doesn't win an Oscar. He actually reacted quickly and started pretending to be happy for Tony Stark. Moreover, after seeing the police officer, he immediately slandered Su Chen. When everyone looked at his performance, it was like watching a monkey performing hard. Even though Obadiah had just woken up, he realized what was going on. His expression became panicked, and he hurriedly looked at Tony Stark and asked, "Tony, were you rescued by this guy?" His heart was beating wildly now, and he was even more frightened. Is there really an ability in this world that can bring people back to life? Who is this Chinese person? Now his head is in a mess, but the strong feeling of uneasiness is getting stronger and stronger. This is the first time that Tony Stark has seen such superb acting skills from the guy he considers his uncle. If he didn't know everything and had those dark transaction records, he really couldn't believe that this guy wanted to harm him. Facing the other party's question, Tony Stark said jokingly, "Oh, it seems like that, and I just found something interesting, do you want to take a look?" As he spoke, Tony Stark pressed twice on the flip phone, and a piece of information appeared. Tony Stark held the phone in front of Obadiah's eyes. The screen was small, but Obadiah could still see what was on it clearly. It was his record of dealing arms with terrorists. There is also a surveillance video of Obadiah putting a very small thing into Tony Stark's research room. No, Tony, don't believe this. Obadiah is still talking too hard, but it is clear that facts speak louder than words. Even George and other police officers almost couldn't hold it back. They have never seen such a shameless person. Tony Stark almost changed his perspective again. This moment was more shocking than he had ever been in his entire life. "Stan, I have always regarded you as my uncle, but you treat me like a monkey. But fortunately, you just let me enjoy a personal comedy, and I feel balanced in my heart." Hey, is this also the fate of geniuses? Quote, at the moment, the anger on Tony Stark's face could no longer be concealed. "Tony, you will regret it. Without me, the entire Stark company will fall. You can't control it. I will make you regret it. Stark Industries will be mine sooner or later." Obadiah was dragged away by the police, along with the slender man. Even so, he still said harsh words. If he didn't want to get into trouble, Su Chen would really want to give this guy a moon blade. This villain talks too much. Su Chen, you made me get to know you again. Before leaving, George Stacy looked at Su Chen with surprise. Unexpectedly, the other party could actually resurrect people. Regardless of whether Tony Stark was completely dead, this was a complete medical miracle. He didn't know how many secrets this young man had. Thinking of his daughter who had been clamoring to take her to Su Chen's store after meeting Su Chen, George couldn't help but lament. There is no place for women to stay in college. However, are his daughter and this boy really from the same world? Su Chen didn't know that this man had so many thoughts in an instant. He chuckled and said, "Mr. George, sometimes you have to take a long-term view. This level is nothing." Su Chen's meaning is very simple, that is, there will be supernatural events that will subvert the three concepts in the future, and it doesn't matter. George thought Su Chen was being modest and did not understand the deeper meaning of his words, so he said, "You Chinese people are really humble. You can visit my house when you have time. Gwen has been clamoring to see you." Speaking of this, George's eyes couldn't help but become wary. It's like reminding Su Chen that it's okay to visit my house, but don't hit my daughter's attention. Su Chen is a little funny, this guy is really a daughter slave. However, this matter is not up to you. I'm so sorry for making you watch a comedy show. After George left, Tony Stark spoke. It can be seen that Tony Stark really hates being betrayed, but the sadness in his eyes is still difficult to conceal. After his parents died, it was Obadiah who raised him, and he really regarded each other as his uncle. But behind all this is profit, and the other party is even willing to murder him. Su Chen didn't say much. This time his goal has been achieved. As for whether he will become Iron Man in the future, he may not know. He thought of the possibility that if he didn't save Tony Stark, he would not be able to die because of his role as the protagonist. After all, the Earth is indeed guarded by strong ones, such as the Ancient One magician. She can predict everything, and she may occasionally intervene in the messed up timeline. Handsome young magician, how can I thank you? Tony Stark recovered quickly and then realized that he had not properly thanked Su Chen. This is his savior. If I keep using random nicknames, I might release 1 or 2 poisonous insects. This guy's words are still so out of tune. Okay, I will definitely study your poisonous insect carefully this time. Why is it so poisonous? You should have always been interested in engineering, artificial intelligence, physics and steel creation, right? Biology, genetics, etc. should not be your expertise. Who told you? Tony Stark has always been an all-around genius. When Su Chen said that he was only stronger in physics, Stark was immediately unhappy. Even though he is best at physics, he also studies biology. He had studied the Hulk's blood. The two exchanged some words and became familiar with each other. Immediately, Tony Stark spoke in a rare and solemn voice. Okay, I don't like to joke either. Next, I will take back all Obadiah's shares. There should be about 15% of the shares. I know that these are not worth mentioning for my life. However, I still hope you can accept it. Quote, as soon as Tony Stark said this, both Pepper and Happy opened their mouths. The Tony they knew was indeed very generous, spending money like water, and sometimes casually giving checks worth millions to cover girls he had a one-night stand with. But this is nearly 15% of Stark Industries. The market value of Stark Industries is approximately $200 billion, and this young man has become the second largest shareholder after Tony. One person accounts for nearly $30 billion of Stark Industries' market value. Su Chen can take away at least $3 billion every year from shareholder dividends alone. That's right, Stark Industries' annual revenue is around $20 billion. Is this the kind of wealth a young man who has just grown up should have? If Tony keeps this share, plus his own share, then he will definitely control the company. Didn't he always want to get rid of the shackles of the old guys on the board of directors? For a moment, they didn't know whether Tony was too grateful to Su Chen for saving his life, or whether he was crazy. However, just because they couldn't figure it out, it didn't mean that Tony Stark really had a seizure. Not only did he not feel any distress about the 15%, but he felt that it would be worthwhile if he could really hand over someone like Su Chen. This is the existence that can save Deadman. Handing him over is equivalent to gaining an extra life, or even a lot of lives. At the same time, he had a hunch that Su Chen would have a great influence on his future. As a genius, he always believed in his own feelings. Su Chen was also a little surprised by Tony Stark's decisiveness. He was actually willing to give all of Obadiah's shares to himself. Even though she understood that the other party wanted to make her a friend, Su Chen was still a little surprised by the other party's decision. Su Chen chuckled lightly, shook his head and said, forget it, you should keep the shares for yourself. After all, you don't want to be restricted by the old antiques on the board of directors. With these 15% shares, plus you should have about 35% in hand, you can definitely control the shares. With one veto power, those old antiques won't do anything to you. Quote. Hearing this, Tony Stark was stunned. He didn't expect that the other party would refuse. This is to do nothing and get at least 3 billion shares every year. Does the other party really not understand the value of this share, or is he really indifferent to fame and wealth? Hey, don't think that I am very generous and can give you the shares, because in this way you can have absolute control. But I won't refuse the dividend from that share. After all, who can have trouble with money? Quote. At this time, Tony Stark and Pepper's jaw dropped to the ground, and Happy breathed a sigh of relief. They almost thought that Su Chen could be so generous that he didn't even ask for money. Well, although I don't want to admit it, it seems that I owe you more and more. Although Su Chen will still want dividends, the dividends are basically what he wants to give to Su Chen. But if he, Tony Stark, has shares, he can own more than 50% of the shares. With absolute controlling rights, everything can be vetoed with one vote, and you no longer have to worry about those old guys. Although Su Chen was just a favor, she did him a big favor again. Su Chen waved his hands indifferently. He didn't want to become a shareholder and deal with those cunning guys. Unless he holds all the shares himself, he alone has the final say over the entire company. By the way, I suggest you, if you have time, learn about the desert dozens of kilometers away from the military station in the Middle East. There is an organization there called 10 Rings, which is also the terrorist force that Obadiah mainly deals with. They killed countless innocent people with your weapons. Quote, Su Chen didn't know that because of the plot change, Tony Stark had not experienced being kidnapped by terrorists. I didn't see that the weapons he developed became a disaster for innocent people in the hands of those fools. Will he have a profound enlightenment, close the weapons department, and then develop the arc reactor and develop mechas? The company also switched to research and development of new energy sources, and Stark Industries once again rose to a higher level. Tony Stark nodded solemnly again and promised, I will contact Rhodes soon and ask him to send me satellite images of the situation there. For Su Chen, he now believes 100%. Not only because it saved his life, but also because he had a feeling that Su Chen would not lie to him. Okay, Mr. Shitdako, you can draw up a contract for me later. You are also welcome to visit my store. Based on our relationship, I will pay you 100 times the price. Su Chen waved his hand, then turned around and left. A contract is necessary. After all, this is a fortune of 20 billion per year, and even Tony Stark cannot do it. Tony Stark did not try to save Su Chen, but just nodded and shouted to Su Chen's back. Don't worry, I will find you. Even without using JARVIS, with his knowledge, he could easily investigate Su Chen's address. Suddenly, he seemed to realize something. Hey, kid, who do you call Shitdako? Why do you want to charge me 100 times more? However, apparently no one answered him. Su Chen has already gone far, and he wants to go back and take stock of this harvest. As he expected, the reward this time was very generous. Not long after Su Chen left, a dark-skinned middle-aged man wearing a military uniform also hurried over. This person is Tony Stark's military partner and friend, Lieutenant Colonel Rhodes. At this time, Rhodes had not yet been promoted to colonel. Facing Little Pepper, Happy and the other two nodded and said, Tony, I heard you were poisoned, are you okay? Tony Stark looked at the other party's anxious look. Obviously he had rushed over from his station in the Middle East by plane in a hurry. The sense of loss at Obadiah's betrayal was again diluted. I'm Tony Stark, and even God wouldn't dare accept me. Seeing that the other party returned to his original cynical appearance, Rhodes breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the other party was not seriously injured. Then, he said solemnly, tell me what's going on. Looking at the chaotic scene in the emergency room, it was obvious that there had been a conflict, not to mention there were so many bodyguards lying outside. Rod knew that a lot had obviously happened before he came. Nothing to make a fuss about. God just invited me to tea, now you should send me back in a special military vehicle. Tony Stark leaned against the bed, looking extremely tired. Seeing the wrinkles on his friend's anxious face that would make a dog stop, Tony Stark then raised his lips slightly and said, Okay, before I tell you this, do me a favor first. What? The situation in the desert dozens of kilometers away from the station in the Middle East should be able to be detected using satellites or drones, right? It didn't take long for Obadiah to be jailed. Those who commit smuggling, treason, colluding with terrorists, intentional murder, etc. are directly sentenced to death. Executed in a few days. The public also knew that the person who poisoned Tony Stark was none other than Obadiah. But the good news is that Tony Stark has been rescued. As soon as this news came out, everyone in the United States was stunned. Tony Stark and Stark Industries dominate the headlines. Who knew that Obadiah Stane, the second in command of Stark Industries, could be such a guy? For the sake of profit, I even disowned my relatives. But when I think about it, I feel relieved. After all, it is very normal for such a situation to occur in the upper-class society. There are even more serious ones than this. System, redeem rewards. Ding, the host fights criminals, exposes Obadiah's crimes, and rewards the small light GU and 50 energy blocks. Ding, the host saved Tony Stark, one of the protagonists of this world, and will be rewarded with the sucking voodoo, jade light voodoo, needle and needle voodoo, and 100 energy blocks. Small light GU, an auxiliary GU insect, which can strengthen the attack power of moonlight GU, and can also be trained with it to become a lower level 1 GU insect. Jade light GU, auxiliary GU insects. It can assist defensive GU insects to increase their defense power. It can also be trained together to become a lower level 1 GU insect. Note: combined with iron skin GU, the defense will be increased tenfold. Sucking GU. Swallowing GU-like insects can devour the opponent's power to improve itself, but it will cause its own energy to be mixed. If it is combined with essence GU-like insects, there will be no shortcomings. Needle GU. Attacks GU-like insects and turns energy into needles to attack, suitable for large-scale attacks. After saving one Tony Stark, he was rewarded with 3 GU worms at once. This guy Obadiah also contributed one to himself. His attack this time really killed 2 birds with 1 stone. Although the 2 auxiliary GU insects will not increase the attack methods, they can improve the attack and defense, and can be trained together to become a stronger GU insect, which is also very valuable. Sucking voodoo has side effects, but it can quickly increase your strength. Even though the system didn't say much, Su Chen understood that using too much of this voodoo might cause unimaginable side effects. Currently, if you use sucking voodoo, you can use wine worms to purify a small amount. But after all, the wine bug is only purifying and cannot completely purify. I don't know if I can get the purifying GU insects mentioned by the system next time. But I can't hold too much hope. After all, the system's rewards are distributed randomly. As for the needle voodoo, it is the attacking voodoo insect that I need most at the moment. And the system also thoughtfully rewarded a large-scale attacking GU-like insect. In a world full of dangers like Marvel, there are too many situations where one is against many. It had not been long since Loki led the Chitauri army to attack New York, only 3 or 4 years. You must seize the time to improve your strength in order to control your own destiny. Put the 150 energy blocks obtained into the bottom storage box, leaving part of it outside. Then, he summoned the 4 GU insects in his body. After seeing that the energy block could be eaten again, the 4 GU insects rushed to the energy block and started to devour it. After all the energy blocks on the table were eaten up, the bodies of several GU worms became more dazzling. It's really edible. If this continues, I won't be able to supply any more energy blocks. In a few days, the energy blocks originally obtained from killing the mafia had been almost eaten. I haven't fed these GU insects for 2 days. After a while, I ate another 5th. This is still the reason why the 4 GU worms just obtained were not refined. If we add the 4 we just obtained, we will definitely not be able to supply them. Why doesn't the system have a fill money function? In this case, you can fill money to purchase, which is a lot more convenient. When Su Chen was thinking this, his eyes suddenly narrowed and he looked outside the store. At some point, a man wearing a dark gray suit, sunglasses, and a blind cane stood at the door of the store. Hey, Lawyer Ma actually has time to visit my shop. The person coming is none other than Matt Murdock, the daredevil whom I just met a few days ago. Daredevil walked into Su Chen's shop slowly, because he was no different from a normal person and his cane was basically useless. It is probably used to cover up oneself and deceive ordinary people. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.